All right. I'm going to call the regular city council meeting to order on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. And just mention that this is Luke's last city council meeting. We'll do more at the end of the meeting to recognize how great you've been and how much we're going to miss you. And that his son, Arthur, is here. I mean, Luke has gone through a lot since he's been the council. He got married. He had a baby. Your dad passed away. So he's been, and this is all like in the last couple of years. So yeah, a lot of life changes, and thankful that you were part of us during those changes. So more to come on gratitude for your work. But I just wanted to state that at the beginning of the meeting so Arthur could hear about how wonderful and how much love we have for his dad. So Arthur, did you get that? All right. I think he's looking good. All right. Very good. Okay. Next up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. And David, if you wouldn't mind leaving us in the pledge, that would be great.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, David. And Arthur got his first Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, that's pretty good. He's learning about civic duty right off the bat.
Indoctrination.
Yeah. Okay. Public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight? Okay, Pete.
Well,
You have 3 minutes, so you can be quick up to 3 minutes.
mind.
Yeah.
My name is Pete Gross. First, I want to thank Caitlin, Colin, and Tani. Look forward to 2 more years with you. Luke, I'm sorry to see you go. I understand you have other priorities. I totally get it. I think your replacement will be excellent. Jason, I was very, very relieved. I mean, I wasn't surprised at all, but relieved to see, you win pretty handily.
Well, thank you.
Joette, I think we dodged a bullet on November 4th. I am so happy to see you here and know that you'll be here next year too.
Thanks, Pete.
And I want to elaborate on that. 34 years ago, I moved to Moab almost exclusively because of the amazing federal public lands. And they're owned collectively by 1/3 billion of our fellow Americans. I'd also like to point out 99% of Americans live outside of Utah. 99.7% of Utahns live outside of Grand County. The notion that a couple of county commissioners want to dictate management of Arches National Park, to me, it just baffles me. I think it's beyond absurd. And also, I want to thank you also again for, even though I think it was kind of the last minute, that you also represented us in Salt Lake on December 1st at this meeting that was a closed door meeting that we hardly knew anything about what's going on. Anyway, so thank you, all of you. And that's all I have to say. Well, I have a lot more to say, but some other time.
Thanks, Pete. Happy holidays. Any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to a presentation by Sandra Billy. And I believe you have somebody with you can introduce. Come on up. Okay.
It's.
I did. Just did now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. No, I don't.
Thank you.
Awesome. So thank you for having us here today. My name is Sandra Billy.
Sandra, if I could have you sit in front of the microphone, so we can get it on recording, that would be great. You can stand if you prefer, but as long as you're talking to the mic.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's loud. So my name is Sandra Billy, and at the moment, I'm just a community member. And I recently did a survey that just kind of asked some questions of like, what are some ways that us as community members in Moab can help our community meet their basic needs, essentially. And I had 47 respondents in a week, which is, yeah, wow, it's awesome. Because before I worked at Sea Caven, and put together surveys and got like 10, 20 responses maybe. So this was kind of cool. And a lot of the responses were just a yes to this, what we're going to explain here in a bit. And it's just called the Time and Trade Network. It kind of works off of, I don't know if anyone's heard of a time exchange program. Okay, we'll dive into that in a minute, but I'm Sandra Billy, and this here is.
Hi, I'm Eric Friel. I've been a Moab resident for 2 years and a Utah resident now for about 7 years. And I have a bit of experience helping do some community organizing with a housing co-op that I helped start in Michigan in college. And that's about when I had first heard about this time bank idea. And I told Sandra about it recently. And I think we have a few pieces we want to add to that and a few asks that we have from the city tonight to like try and tie all that together.
How do you go to your script?
To present.
Yeah, you need to go to the Zoom
Oh, right,
to
to
share
share.
the screen. Yeah,
Sorry about this, guys.
let me go share screen. Windows.
Here we go. Okay. There we
I feel weird not thanking you guys,
go.
but I'm gonna talk into this. So I guess muddled around what we're talking about here today. Eric's going to explain this slide to you and how we're kind of bringing all these pieces together.
So the Time and Trade Network is kind of a working name we have for these 4 pieces that we want to bring together. One of them being the Time Bank, which is a system where people can exchange services and skills, basically using a digital currency. You can kind of think of it as any hour that people expend working for someone else or providing community service, they can earn an hour in the time bank or a time credit or a time dollar or something like that. And then they can use that as a way to receive work from other people. And so we see it as a way for people to, it can be circular like this, right? It doesn't have to be a one-to-one exchange. It doesn't have to be like person A gives to person B and person B gets something back. It can be something where people can give their services to somebody and earn a time credit and then spend that somewhere else. And it can create this circular economy or this circular network of services to people. And so that's one piece of it. The other thing that we have in mind is a physical blessing bins where people can receive goods. So the time bank is more for services and the blessing bins is more for goods. And then we also want to make a physical space with community resource board where people can have as much accessibility to these things as possible, right? Something low tech where people can access these things. And a team of volunteers that is regularly updating and checking these things and maintaining these things to connect people with appropriate offerings and requests and things like that. And those volunteers who are monitoring that word can also then gain time from the time bank to then get services from other people. And then accessibility and navigation, it feels like a really big part of this to us. It was the most, when we asked people what needs they felt like there were gaps in the community, navigating what resources there were and figuring out where to go for what and help with that, help making those things accessible as possible was the most common response that we got. And so we felt like that is a really significant piece of this as well.
That's kind of like what brought this about for me anyways, is when I worked at Sea Haven as a community coordinator, a lot of my job was spent connecting these organizations and gathering resources for our community. And a lot of the time it was just on foot. So I spent a lot of time going around saying hi. It's how I got to know Colin. And I guess the big part of why I'm here is the way I see it is in my mind, I think in systems and how mentally for me, it was easy to navigate. And I have like a Rolodex, so to say, of all these organizations, EDs, and outreach coordinators. And I was thinking of like, how can we bring something, what's in my mind, to the physical without reinventing the wheel, but instead just integrating it into a system structure with the city's approval. And that way it's sustainable and it helps these organizations stay connected, as well as connecting our community with these resources. That's what a lot of this is coming together in puzzling pieces. And the time bank is just kind of supplemental to that, and something that I feel like is needed, especially with how our nation is right now. I don't want like to really get into politics, but I'm a brown woman, as you can see, and a lot of what's happening is targeted at people like me. And that's why this feels really important to me, as a lot of our community, I want to say, is our school district's 28% Hispanic, and Grand County is just 2% Indigenous is what they identify as. But from my experience, it's still 2% that matters, and it's still 23% of our youth in the school district that matter. And these are ways that we can help make things accessible in a more less judgmental or feeling like you're being judged, discriminated way. Oh, go ahead.
This is just a smattering of examples of things that people could exchange on something like a time bank. Just to say that it's not any one specific thing. There are so many services that people have to offer, and we want to value everyone in the community as an asset and what they have to offer.
Yeah, I look at this as well as a way of how we can help as a community, help the unhoused reintegrate into society. Because there might be opportunities where eventually, long-term thinking, getting businesses on board and possibly thinking of ways of how we can do this in senses of like maybe somebody can offer haircuts, and just little things like that help with reintegrating, build with confidence boosting. And that these are small ways that we can help as a community. And I guess the biggest why for me anyways, why I'm talking about this is I learned about, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this wonderful pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy, and how at my job at CKVN, a lot of what I was doing was working based off of this. And I started thinking like how I don't have a degree in social work or psychology. Tools like this were not known to me up until 2 years ago. But now every day when I go through the community, when I look at needs, when I think of volunteering, helping with Native Club, what are ways that I can help my community get that bottom one, that physiological need? And so I wanted to use this to remind people that we can focus on growth and community participation when those basic needs are being met. And it's a community care system that supports every level of human needs, from access to essentials, to feeling safe, to building belonging and purpose. This project strengthens the exact layers people rely on to thrive. So think of this pyramid as the backbone of why Moab is asking for this system. This way we have a model. I like working with models because it makes it easy to remember, and I can always look back at it, making sure I'm meeting those marks. And at our basic level of the pyramid, these are things that people literally need to get through the day. Our community time and trade system meets this level directly by helping people access food, clothing, baby items, household supplies, rides, everyday support, really through the board, free bins, and time banking. It removes the barriers of money and gives people a way to get what they need without shame. And that's one of the first steps towards stability. Once basic needs are met, the next concern is safety and stability. A unified system with consistent locations and big dreams, but like, you know, a Google hotline would be nice, with having like just a messaging system, no one answering it, just messages. And this way it helps, it makes it more accessible to people who might have that barrier of writing. There's so many things we don't think about that people see as barriers. And it also brings our nonprofits together so people aren't falling through gaps or going places to places looking for these resources. And it builds reliability. That's what I think a basic for safety is reliability. And people know where to go, how to participate, and that the request will be honored.
Can I have one thing here?
Yeah.
To just that we want to make sure that the time bank and the barter boards are also accessible anonymously, so that people who maybe want to maintain their personal privacy have the accessibility to do that. And so I think that's also part of the safety for those.
Thank you. And at the core, people want belonging. That's one thing that was very clear from our responses that we got, is there was people just looking for ways to connect with other mothers, ways, and not everyone uses Facebook. So this would be a way that we as a community can create spaces like that, create opportunities for our community to be like, hey, this is what I want. And organizations like the Wellness Collective have already offered to provide spaces like that, have already offered to have boards like this in their space. So when people are able to contribute their skills, their confidence grows, of course. So the time bank values everyone's equally, which means a single mom's hour is worth the same as a business owner's hour. That recognition boosts dignity and self-worth. It also creates leadership pathways, youth volunteering, elders sharing knowledge, people in recovery giving back, tradespeople mentoring others. This system lets people be seen for their strengths. And in long term, yeah, this project will help Moab thrive altogether, because the top of the pyramid represents people at their fullest potential. When we're able to sit in a space mentally where we can create, where we can learn, we can heal and contribute and then thrive. And that's long term. When people's basic needs are met, when they feel safe and connected, they can grow. They can recover, they can dream. And the time and trade system removes barriers and creates these opportunities, not just for individuals, but for Moab as a whole. And so now that we've looked at how this project meets real human needs across the entire Maslow period, how can we make that happen in our community?
So just to differentiate here again, we have one platform that's providing services and one platform that's more providing goods and navigation. So the Time Bank is a platform for people to exchange services. This is a website, ourworld.org. Some folks in New Zealand have created this for free, and the software is Time and Talents version 2 or TNT2. If you're interested in an idea of like what the capabilities of this website are, there is a video tutorial series that they have posted on YouTube that you can check out. But basically, it's just a platform where people can post requests and offerings. They can have a profile that includes their skills and talents and their needs. And it's also something that there are administrative accesses to, where we can award people credits just for doing community service. And so we can reward things like civic engagement and making democracy work and stuff that isn't normally a paid work, but we want to reward and make sure isn't something that people get burnt out doing all the time. My vision for this is how do we help recognize the work that people put into the community that isn't paid work, that isn't otherwise rewarded. And so there's, an opportunity to view your balance and check out what offerings and requests there are. And we also want to make this available to people as much as possible. And so we want to have an analog version as well, where people can post physically. And then again, we can have volunteers who are spending their time earning credits by connecting people with appropriate offers and requests on a physical board like this, which also has so much more as well. We also really want to envision having, one of the big requests that we got again was that need for like help navigating what resources are available in town. There are a lot of great organizations already doing great work in town, but people aren't sure where to go for which niche. And so we want to create an easy to follow navigation to what resources people need and have a physical space where we can have a blessing board in one space with a community resource board like this. And so I think that this is most of what our asks are about for tonight. But just one thing we want to share before going to that is just one of our favorite answers from our survey. This was again a question about what needs are missing, where are there gaps in the needs being met in Moab. The nonprofits are helpful, but sometimes we don't know where to go for what, and their scopes are all a little niche and doesn't seem like there's a mid-level support. For example, if someone is not experiencing some type of emergency but still struggling, it's hard to know what we qualify for or where to go. But if you have money, you can pay for therapy, or only if you're really poor can you qualify for food stamps. But people in the middle can't get either. There's a gap between pricey services and expensive private pay services. I feel stuck in the middle, but also getting more for it every day. And that really spoke to both of us, I
Yeah.
think. And that's, I think this really gets to the core of what we're trying to meet here.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're not asking for a lot of funding. We're just asking for partnership, visibility, and for me, it's collaboration. I work best when we're all working as one team and we all have the same mission. And from what I experienced through the survey, Moab is a caring community and we're filled with wonderful organizations, wonderful people who want to jump in and help. How can they do that? And how can the city help contribute to a system like this that is sustainable, that is community led? And the collaborations with other organizations, because we have 91 nonprofits here in Moab, that says a lot. And that says a lot that we have so many people who are not in leadership with the city or the county who are doing this work. And it's important that we see that too and connect the pieces as well. Yeah, so let's build this together. And if you guys have any questions.
Questions?
I can start.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being here. I actually filled out the survey, but didn't know who was producing it. So it's really nice that you're here now. Yeah, I have a few questions, I think, going through it and also hearing you present today. Are you involved with any particular organization? Is this through Moab Mutual Aid or just kind of individuals? Cool. And have you talked very much with MBMC or the churches? And yeah,
So we had a preliminary conversation with Rihanna, and Rihanna did say she'd be interested in having free bins at the MBMC and updating. She really liked this. So that feels really good. And I am on the board for the Wellness Collective, so I'm really close with Brianne. And Brianne's also on board with setting something up like this at the Wellness Collective as well and offering that space. One person I do want to reach out to is Sarah Malenkoff, because Moab Solutions for me is sustainable, and I would love it to have that collaboration there for this to exist on their platform.
absolutely. I think that'd be great. I definitely am supportive of this. I think that, yeah, you talked about it. I feel like I've experienced it every couple of years. Nonprofits build out a new community map.
Yeah.
So it's always one of my questions is how can we support this and make sure that someone else doesn't try and repeat it again in a couple of years?
Yeah.
Who houses it? Thinking about funding and support. 100 Women Who Care is another organization that I think you guys should definitely talk to. I think they'd be potentially really excited about this. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, kind of thinking long term as you guys are in a pilot, are you thinking about eventually housing this? Is this like a personal endeavor that you would carry longer term? What does that look like?
For long term, like I think in like 5-year terms. And there is one set up in Corvallis, Oregon, that's been ongoing for 20 years. They've actually integrated it into their businesses in their city to where the money, it just stays in the community. And long term, that's like what my goal is thinking of how we can work with our businesses as well to ensure that something like this stays and that it stays community led. So organizations, which is Moab Solutions, honestly, is who I would prefer to help keep this around long term. And Brianna had mentioned like volunteer services for people who might have like court mandated community service hours and building a volunteer system with them that way as well. So it's feeding into the community, helping the community and community led. But at the moment, it would just be Eric and I starting it out.
Another one of my favorite comments from the survey was about follow through in the community and how often things turn over here and how often things fall apart. And my hope with the time bank, again, is that helps people save themselves from that amount of burnout, that they actually get something back for the work that they're putting into the community. And so my hope is that this creates a structure for accountability to make sure that certain tasks get done, or at least that there's a clear ask in the community for like this thing that needs to get done, who can do it. And it creates a pathway for people to be valued for doing that work too.
Thanks. I guess the last thing I'd say, I think that there's a lot of use for this, both at an individual level when I was filling it out, thinking about yard work. But then also at an organizational level, partially question, partially recommendation, but as you're reaching out to people, making sure that you can identify how this is valuable for both, what that looks
yeah.
like. That's it for me.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I know.
Well, when Sandra came to me about this idea, I thought it was fantastic,
Yeah.
because we, the organizations that we support are the organizations that you've been working with.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was really good for you guys to hear what this idea is and however the city can support, we will look into doing that. So Sandra and I will continue to have conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. That's a real big need. And after going out door to door, there's a lot more people out there that need this kind of service than we know. We're all in our little world, but there's a lot of people out there that need this. So we'll be talking.
Yeah. Thank you,
Just
Joette.
a couple of quick questions.
Sure,
In
Luke.
terms of like structure, it sounded like ideally you wanted to pass this off to Moab Solutions to kind of oversee it long term.
I think I put on this page what the future considerations after a 6-month pilot could look like is looking into grant funding for a community coordinator with the city, just so that way it is long-term, sustainable, and impactful. Because for me, I really would like to see the city's approval on this, because that to me tells me that you're seeing the needs that our community is asking for. And that feels like acceptance and of the reality, really, of what's happening. We can't keep acting like what's happening nationally isn't impacting us in this community. It's really heartbreaking getting on Facebook and reading comment sections. And being a brown person in this community, I have experienced a lot. I think about the unhoused. I think about the brown people in this community. I like to say my little brown babies in the school district, and how I look at community life cycles. We have to start looking at our youth who are in the school districts as kind of, in a sense, byproducts of what our community is. They're going to be coming back into this community. How do we give them something that's sustainable so there isn't a coalition of kids that are unhoused reaching out to Christina over at the teen center, who don't have these securities met, and will they ever get to self-actualization? That's the bigger picture. And that's like going to take more than 5 years. And systems like this that are community led, they show that you and leadership care about the community. And I think that's a really important message to send, especially with what's happening nationally.
Yeah. And like, I think that's kind of where my questions like really are originating from, is in terms of like the long-term sustainability by having this be like a community driven program.
Yeah.
And so like, do you know what kind of organizational structures in Corvallis have allowed it to stay in place for 20 plus years? Because like one of the issues with like, I think any sort of nonprofit that is grant funded in our community is that sometimes your mission follows what grant funding is available.
Yeah.
And so like, although this might be something that they have the capacity or resources to oversee or participate in, long term, that might not be a sustainable thing for the organization. And so, yeah, I'm just interested, like, I do think this would be great. I think this really is a great melding of kind of the more like organized like structures within our community with the community itself. And so, yeah, I don't know if like there'd ever be a plan to have like a community governing body so that the community kind of decides like what shape this takes in. So it can kind of better suit our like community specific needs or things like that. But it's the concept I have not been exposed to previously, but makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something that can also go a long way in terms of helping bringing community together at a time where things are divisive or feel strained and all that.
I think for me, long term, I would like to reach out to the people who created it in Corvallis, as well as the Time Hour Exchange or Our World website. Salt Lake has a time exchange program on there. Theirs is called SL County Community Exchange. And I don't mind reaching out and asking more questions, because sustainability is definitely what I have in mind, and which is why I was thinking about Moab Solutions and MDMC, because they've been around for so long and they're going to be around for quite a while. And even then, I would love to help find grants to help support this. And yeah, I'm all in. I think my time credit's probably pretty high right now, but it's all with love.
And maybe what you can do, Sandra, too, is, something like this, I believe, is probably going to have to eventually become a nonprofit of some sort or have that organizational structure. And so maybe you can work with Rihanna and Sarah and utilize their nonprofit status to help build the community governing body that you're going to need. But then you don't have to actually go through the process until you're ready. So something to think about. We can talk
Yeah,
more about
well,
it later.
okay.
Anything else? Oh, go ahead,
Well,
Caitlin.
also, just since Katie's in the audience, I'd also recommend you connecting with Moab Mutual Aid.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Looking
you, guys.
forward to hearing more. Yep.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, we have no department updates. We have 6 items on our consent agenda. The ratification of letter of support for 4-H Youth Pathways for Building Connectiveness in rural Utah. Recommendation to the U.S. Board of Geographic Names on a proposal to name an arch on BLM land. Approval of a letter of support for Arches National Park timed entry system, which really is not what this is. I'm going to pull that off the consent agenda because I'd like to talk a little bit more about that.
Great.
So I'll pull 5.3, and then we have our holiday schedule, our meeting scheduled, approval of the minutes for a special meeting on November 12th and for a regular meeting on November 12th, and then the approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $1,605,433.85. I know I didn't say that right, but it's a lot of money. So if I could ask for a motion to approve consent agenda items 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, and to table 5.3. I'm going to move this to the very end of the agenda because part of this discussion was going to be my report. And so I'll move this to the end and then I can talk about it at that time. Is that okay, Jason? All right. So if I can have a motion to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 4, 5, and 6, and tabling 5.3.
What's that? And 7.
Oh, and 7. Yeah, sorry. I missed that one. Thanks.
I'll make a motion for on the consent agenda to approve 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7. And move 5.3 to the regular agenda at the end of the meeting.
Great. Motion by Jason,
Second.
second by Colin. Any discussion, Jason?
No.
Colin? Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Great, thank you. All right, next we have the consideration of adoption of Resolution 12-2025, a resolution to adopt the 2025 Grand County Non-Motorized Master Trail Plan is prepared by the Grand County Active Transportation and Trails Department. And Alexi's going to introduce this, and then Katie is going to talk a little bit more about it.
Okay. I just wanted to, before we jump into the non-motorized trails master plan, give a little context and then turn it over to our presenters from Grand County. The way this was set on a foundation from the plans that we have as a city, it fits into our 2017 general plan. We have a couple elements of parks and recreation, transportation and circulation that both discuss a connected network that facilitates many modes of transportation. From there, we move into the Unified Transportation Master Plan, which was in 2021, 2022. And this is building on that with a lot more detail about specifically active transportation and trails. So Grand County and the city of Moab collaborated both on the Unified Transportation Master Plan and also on this plan. Some of the things that you'll see in the future that were recommendations from the Unified Transportation Master Plan are complete streets policy and wayfinding. And today, we're going to go into a lot more detail on the trails. The city of Moab had a number of staff members representing several departments who were participating. Colin represented the city as an elected member and sat on the technical advisory committee for this. So with that as a brief introduction, I want to turn it over to Maddie Logowitz, Director of Grand County Active Trails, Transportation and Trails, and also Katie Murphy, who has taken the lead on this as a special projects coordinator for Grand County. Okay, ready?
We're working through a technical issue that
I can start a little introduction while you're working on that, Junie. Maddie's just pulling up Zoom.
decided to re-download my app at this very moment.
As I feel like it always does with Zoom. But Maddie and I are really excited to present this tonight. This has really been a labor of love over the past year. The two of us have been working really hard on it, but beyond us, there have been many people involved in coming up with these recommendations. Alexi mentioned the TAC. The city's been very closely involved. We've had many stakeholder meetings. Trail Mix has been involved. We worked with Alta Planning and Design, our consultants, and we've had just a lot of folks with very specific skill sets and experience and knowledge that came in to offer their knowledge on a specific piece of this plan. So it's really exciting to be able to bring together all these people who have skills and expertise in things that we don't, and bring together this sort of like highly specialized knowledge from a lot of different places into this one plan. And it was a really ambitious plan. We brought together a lot of different sides of things. There was the natural surface trail part of it, which kind of builds on the work that Trail Mix has been working on over the years and that our department, GCAT, has been working on. And then there was the active transportation element, which also our consultant really brought a lot of expertise, really like years of expertise related to. We were really excited to have them. And just kind of almost like two plans in one. And a lot of the work that we were doing, we're knitting them together. And I was, there were moments where I wasn't sure we were going to get it done, but we did. And not only that, I think we did a pretty bang up job. So I'm proud of us. How's it going?
And then it kicked us out. For good. And with the city able to maybe
email me the presentation?
It has been.
Okay.
You were my backup. It's always good to have a backup. We can try my computer.
Oh. I'm in.
Nice.
Okay.
Just have to give up all hope.
Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, we're muted, we're in. So Katie, let me just set this up for you.
Great. My aim is to tell you all about the plan in less than 15 minutes of your time. Test. Great. And get into, have a little bit of time for questions and discussion. Oops,
Don't do
don't
that.
close that. Don't do it. Okay, glad Maddie's here.
Present. Yeah, where's my button? Done. Okay, success.
Excellent, okay. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay. Oh, okay. Non-motorized trails master plan. So I'm Katie Murphy. Maddie and I work for the Grand County Active Transportation and Trails Department. So we oversaw this project. I was on a one-year position that was paid for by a grant, a UDOT technical planning assistance grant, which I'll get back to in a second. So this plan built on several previous plans that Alexi mentioned. I wanted to note too in particular, the original non-motorized trails master plan was originally drafted by Trail Mix in 2005. So it's written by volunteers. And since then it's been updated in 2008 and 2011. So it's been a while since we've had an update. In the text of the plan, it mentions a goal of updating the plan every 5 years. So we're long overdue. And the original plan had more of a focus on recreation or soft surface trails, although there were some recommendations related to active transportation. And I'm going to use this term active transportation a lot tonight. And by that, I mean walking, biking, rolling using non-motorized devices under 20 miles an hour as a way to get around on a daily basis, more so than going mountain biking or going hiking, getting to the store or work or school. So that's what I mean by active transportation. And that's one part of the plan. So the original plan includes basically maps and matrices of all the existing areas in the county. The county is broken up into about 18 different areas in the original plan. And there are maps of all the existing trails and then some recommendations that they made back in 2011. And so there are a few reasons that we wanted to update the plan other than the 5-year mandate. We wanted to expand the scope to include more active transportation elements. We wanted to sort of reanalyze community needs after some time has passed. What is missing from our existing trail network in terms of being able to get around without a car, but also our recreational trails. What sort of new needs have arisen in the time since this plan was last published. We also wanted to update the recommendations and including more active transportation recommendations in there. And lastly, making the plan as user-friendly as possible. The last plan had a lot of work to put into it, but one of the things I found having to work with it a lot is just that staring at these tiny PDF maps is really, really, really hard. So we're hoping that our new maps are a little bit more user-friendly, even in the print version. But part of what we were doing was we were developing an internal tool that's going to be available to city and county staff. That is a GIS database of all the existing trails in the county that we gather data from the BLM, Forest Service, all the different land managers, and that we'll be able to keep that up to date. So another relevant previous plan I want to talk about is the Unified Transportation Master Plan. So this came out in 2022. It's an excellent plan. There was a lot in there that we built on. So I have a couple examples here, just screenshots from different areas in the plan, things that I really liked. They have a really excellent existing conditions section. So you can see up there are maps of residential density by neighborhood, as well as employment density. That's that purple. Residential is in the green. And that's just some examples of their existing conditions analysis, but they use that to produce a plan that is sort of long-term planning for all types of transportation in the county, including motorized, non-motorized, and transit. And one of the things that this plan came out with is a set of recommendations, like Alexi mentioned, some of which are already being implemented for active transportation in the county and in the city. But one of the things that we felt was lacking in the approach of the UTMP was sort of a network-based approach. So how do we think about actual connectivity between all the destinations in town, all the places that people live, all the places that people shop, places that people go to work? How do we make sure that you can get from any origin point to any common destination on a sort of continuous standard of comfort and safety? Hence, this idea was formed back in 2023. I was working in the planning department at that point, and Maddie and I worked on a grant application to UDOT for the technical planning assistance grant. So some of the characteristics of the grant program is that these projects need to focus on long-term planning for active transportation and really foreground the relationship between land use and active transportation. So that's really thinking about how does the way that we access places affect development patterns over time? And how do we think about future development that's planned and making sure that we continue to have active transportation access to those places, in between those places and within those places? And one way that we really integrated that in this plan was thinking about the county's future land use plan and the future development centers that are recommended further out in the county. And how are we making sure that those stay connected to each other? And how do we want people to be able to get around within them? So the grant was $120,000 total. Of that, the city provided the full match in funds through an interlocal agreement with GCAT. And then that funding was used to hire our consultant, Alta, and to pay me. So a little bit about the scope of work. We conceived of this last year as sort of like, how do we build upon the non-motorized trail master plan additions that we already have and the unified transportation plan, and kind of take to the next step the city and county's active transportation planning and recreation planning where it is right now. So one thing that's important about it is it's a long-range planning document. It doesn't specify implementation. So we're not talking about, what's getting implemented first. Or there's information here about, how much the consultant thinks various facilities will cost. But all of the implementation is going to be at the discretion of the city and the county. So we're not necessarily committing to any type of implementation when we adopt this plan. So it constitutes an update to our existing soft surface trail network, so up-to-date maps of existing trails. We're addressing changes in usage over time. So there are new user groups that weren't accounted for in the original master plan. There's areas that are experiencing significantly increased visitation from where we're at in 2011. Developing this active transportation network aspect, improving connectivity, maintaining access to recreational assets and public land over time as development occurs, and integrating active transportation planning into development review and road design. So Alexi already walked through this a little bit, so I won't name everyone, but this is our technical advisory committee. All of these folks were really involved in the plan from the start to the finish. We had a lot of people who were bringing their specific areas of expertise that we're really grateful for. So the city has been highly involved in this throughout the process. And the people whose names are circled there really contributed a lot. So we're very grateful. So a little bit about our process, how we got to where we are. So in January of this year, we posted our RFP. In March, we selected Alta Planning and Design. In April, we had our kickoff meeting. That was the sort of beginning of getting the TAC involved in this process. We did a bike walk audit, which was awesome. We had our consultants come down. We got everyone in the TAC out on bikes. We biked around and checked out an itinerary of some of the best and the worst of Moab City and Spanish Valley in terms of active transportation infrastructure, everything from the Mill Creek Parkway to the Skunk Alley Bridge. So that was a great sort of like kickoff for starting to talk about how we would like kind of explaining to the consultants about how we see our city and our county, and kind of giving them a flavor of what we would like this plan to produce. This summer, we had public meetings. We had stakeholder meetings, which were more specific meetings with groups that had very specific needs from this plan. So we had meetings with business owners where we were talking about how are people accessing your business? Is it walkable to get to your business? What's the infrastructure that's there or not there? Are there trees outside? Do people stay? How might you imagine that future active transportation infrastructure might influence people coming to your business? We had this vulnerable street user group, which was great. It was representatives of groups that work, representatives of organizations that work with particular groups who have specific needs from streets. And I really got this idea from the 880 movement in urban planning, which is the idea that if you build a city for someone who's 8 and someone who's 80, it'll work for everyone in between. So basically taking the people who have the sort of like the most important and specific needs from streets and trying to figure out what those are. So we had representatives of groups that work with unhoused people, with children, with seniors, with people who speak English as a second language, and what is it that these groups are struggling with on our streets currently, and what recommendations do we need? And we got a lot of really good, really interesting ideas out of there, like where are kids walking to get to school? What are the major routes? What are the major routes that seniors take to get around town? And then we had these open-ended public visioning meetings where we invited anyone in the public to come draw on maps and just anything they'd like to see related to active transportation and recreation. The sky's the limit. If you want to like see a bike packing route, across areas in near Cisco, or connecting all these different mountain bike trail systems. And so that was really interesting to kind of learn what people would like to see, what people were excited about. Toward the end of the summer, we had an online survey, which basically was the same process, but online. We had this really awesome comment map that you can see up here, where people were able to recommend things and then vote on other people's recommendations, whether they liked it or not, comment. And we got 439 responses to that. And our survey really asked a lot of questions that actually led into our goals and strategies that were kind of how we translated public comments into our proposals. So we were asking about what are the major barriers to getting around by walking or biking, or what are the major barriers to recreation for you? What are opportunities that you see? And we use that to kind of distill our 8 goals. Then finally, toward the end of the summer, we started our landowner outreach, and that has been kind of continuous. We mailed postcards to everybody whose property had been affected by the previous 2011 master plan. And that's actually an outdated number. I've had a lot more than 15 follow-up conversations. I've had about 25 at this point, with individual landowners talking through what it means for your property to be in the plan, and really trying to log what people's sort of thoughts and desires with how their property was represented. We had a midterm open house in September, and lots of attendees at that. And now we are finishing up. We finished our final draft and we're in the adoption phase.
So just as a reminder, we've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, great. We're almost done. A couple photos from public engagement. And then the sort of plan framework that resulted from this whole process. So our mission is to build on Grand County's reputation for world-class trails by preserving and developing a comprehensive trail network that provides convenient, enjoyable transportation and recreation experiences for all trail users. It's a mouthful, as these things usually are, but I think that really gets at all the things that we're trying to pull together in this plan. On the right-hand side there, you can see our guiding principles and the degree of agreement the people who took the survey had with them. They were all relatively popular, but we have connected, equitable, safe, social, fun, and resilient. And then these are our goals and strategies spreads. So these were these goals that came out of the survey and the public comment period. Some things I really wanted to highlight was number 3, adapt to extreme heat and weather. This was something that really came out as a new issue that people were seeing as a barrier. Back in 2019, we had a very similar survey that our department put out, and extreme heat was one of the options, and it was nowhere near as serious of a threat. So we're really seeing that come out. So it was important for us to get that in there. Connectivity was a huge one, and that made its way into a lot of our proposals. Our network recommendations, you can see a little bit about what the recommendations are looking like in this iteration of the plan. So these are our active transportation recommendations. We have them separated out. Some photos of screenshots of the inset there is Moab City downtown. We have a larger zoomed out version of the map for the county. And then this is one example of what a table looks like in there. Some renderings that our consultant made for us of the different types of facilities that are getting recommended. And then these are our natural surface trail recommendations. So we have 15 maps that follow a very similar scheme to the 2011 plan. And while, fixing a few things that we felt were unclear. And then we have existing and proposed trail matrices with information about trails and proposals. And then I won't read all of this, but it will be good for our conversation. This is everything that's in the plan. Questions?
Colin, I'm going to start with you because you were a part of this plan. So if you could kind of give us your briefing, that would be great.
Okay, my briefing is this, that, you know what, I'm really proud of the work on this plan. It's an incredibly comprehensive and just very well thought out plan. You know, you all know that I am passionate about active transportation and moving around this community on foot and bike. The reasons that I do so are both physical and mental health and environmental. To me, active transportation is absolutely, it's a luxury. To me, this plan goes a long way in addressing all the needs. You know, if when we were doing the existing conditions, this town is riddled with neighborhoods and parts of this community that are not connected with schools and shopping safely if you're on bike or on foot. And this plan goes a huge way at, you know, really addressing these needs, you know, in the most equitable form of transportation available in our community. And that's active transportation. That's using your feet and rolling and riding a bike. And yeah, couldn't be more proud of the work that especially Katie did. You know, Maddie always, you know, in the lead of all this amazing work. And then, you know, I've said this before, that the city staff were so incredible, and every opportunity they were providing just such great, you know, just passion and insight for what's happening in the city. And I was so proud of their efforts. That's it.
Thanks. Council.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, thank you for doing this. It's much needed. I'm amazed that, you know, as much time as I spend on the walkways and stuff, how many people use the walkways, how they are a necessity. They're not just a luxury, they're a necessity for people to get around the city. And we need to be, you know, planning, you know, to extend it and to allow access for more people. I know one of the questions that I had brought up, I had a phone call, and I spent some time with Colin on the phone about it, that I wanted to kind of reassure residents that, you know, we're not going after people who are using accessible transportation, you know, such as like class 1 e-bikes, you know, is that was a class 1 that, you know, that we that there's a lot of people who are using these to get around, and that they'll still have access, you know, on some of the stuff, and that they can be rest assured that that, you know, these trails are for everybody, you know, and we are getting, you know, there are distinctions, you know, we're, you know, none of the motocross bikes or, you know, things like that aren't meant to be on these trails, but that there still will be access for people who have accessibility even or mobility issues to use these trails with aids and stuff. So I think that's important that the public knows that we you know, we do support that. So anyway, and again, thank you. And I look forward to watching this progress, you know, watching it, you know, watching these trails come up to Raptor State Park, watching the trail extended to up the river and then out into the valley. I think it's going to be, it's good to see that that's, you know, part of the process. So.
Caitlin.
Sure. It's an extensive plan. So just first of all, hats off to you guys. I was really impressed watching the process and how you engage so many stakeholders. Really impressed with the way Alta handled the whole thing. And I know that we're starting another project with them. So excited to continue to see their work. I guess given the plan was so big, can you give us just a few bullet points either from GCAT and or from Alexi about how this is going to start integrating into the city? Top things from the plan that you think city users in particular should know about what's in here.
Let me know.
Thinking about,
Big question, though.
yeah. What's the most exciting things in
start
the
at the
city?
beginning
You want
on
to
it.
start?
Yeah, well, one thing I'm excited about, because I think there's a tendency sometimes with really high level plans, is it can be hard to know, like, you know, January of next year, right? Like, where do you actually start on this? So we did ask Alta as the consultant to help us break down different projects specifically, and then their assessment of the priority level, and then also their anticipated, rough estimate of the cost, and if it was like a short horizon project or a long horizon project. So there's a really useful spreadsheet in there where basically you can kind of scan down it and you can be like, high priority, short timeline, least expensive, all the way to maybe like the harder to accomplish projects. And so that's like a good foothold to figure out how to strategize for which things can be started right away, and then maybe which things need to be put into the planning phase now for like a longer term process.
Something I also think that's nice about having this recommendations table and things outlined this clearly is when the city is doing things like repaving, restriping, doing some of those low level kind of easier projects, that as we're doing stuff that was regularly scheduled anyway, we can start looking at this plan and where we can add those things and improve connectivity. So I think some of the first things will be on that level. And then, some things that are higher ticket items, we also have this plan to start looking at our funding sources and trying to match available funding with projects that we see coming up. In addition to that, kind of having this plan has also tied in nicely to future projects like the SS4A grant we have for the Safe Streets for All, which will help with our complete streets policy. That will also be something that we would start seeing implemented once we have that on new streets that are being planned, in addition to getting us moving on wayfinding, which is something that we're currently working on, but is also more of a short-term kind of thing that we'll see implemented soon. And doing this planning effort helps us inform where those signs go. The nice thing too about all of those projects is that Grand County and Moab City are collaborating on them. So if somebody crosses the city limits on a trail out of town, things should be pretty consistent as they do that.
I think I want to highlight one of the things that I think is really exciting about this plan is it's coming out just as the state of Utah, as UDOT is working on their Utah State Trail Network. And the state has committed a lot of funding over the foreseeable future to building out a network that connects all of the communities in Utah. And actually a lot of these more zoomed out trails that you can see on this map here are part of the Utah Trail Network as well. And so I think there's a lot of potential for synergy between the publication of this plan and being able to apply to UDOT for funding and work with Utah as they're building out the Utah Trail Network, and some of these things that might otherwise be just really unfeasible and way big ticket, way high bar out there for the county to be able to fund. Some of these really long distance trails actually could be possible through the Utah Trail Network. So some of these really big projects are actually not necessarily the most unfeasible, which is really exciting. And I think beyond that, the first edition of the Utah Trail Network plan just came out, but they're going to be continuing to refine that, and having our priorities documented in this plan and adopted will give us a lot of traction to be able to talk to the state and say, hey, we'd really like to see some of these routes included in the next iteration of the Utah Trail Network. And, this is what our community is saying that we want. So I'm really excited about a lot of that.
At the Transportation Commission was here a couple of weeks ago, and I'll talk about that under my reports, but I did meet with the folks from the Utah Trails program, and they're very excited about what we're doing here and feel like we're way ahead of the game compared to the rest of the state. So I think we've got a great opportunity with them, and we should look at them for money. And I don't know, Alexi, if when we do our strategic plan, if some of these recommendations we might want to consider in our capital improvement projects, particularly those that relate to in-town in-town trail network and connectivity. But anyway,
a few that work through.
yeah, I do too. So I think, these recommendations are something that we should be taking into consideration during strategic plan. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I can't promise you that I read all 238 pages.
Connie, you don't have to admit that. Because I was just gonna say, I'm sure you guys read this plan from the front to the back.
But I still worked at the road department when they started, and this has been a long time coming, and you guys did a really good job. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Luke, do you have anything you want to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the thoroughness of this plan. I think I'm really excited at the prospect of having this really tangible tool that can be incorporated in so many future like council and like planning commission decisions. I really appreciate how at the core of this entire plan is connecting the community. And I think like that goes a long way in terms of helping us have a clear vision of how we're going to build out. And so like when new developments arise, like you can reference this, like is the way that this development being built following in line with our desire to connect our community. Like when we are potentially like looking at giving impact fee waivers to any sort of like AEH or like low income housing things, like are they addressing like concerns that will connect these low income people to jobs, to schools, to like amenities. So I think this makes looking at things from that higher level picture like a lot, I don't want to say easier, it's still difficult, but much more identifiable. Like it gives you a clear route as to like how to get there. And then I also just want to express the appreciation that I've heard from the Planning Commission in terms of just like how responsive and everything you've been to their questions and concerns, and incorporated the amendments like that they've had. And so just wanted to kind of echo the kudos about the collaboration that seems to have been ongoing like from the very beginning of this process.
Great, thanks. So my understanding, Kaya, is that the Planning Commission did approve this plan and is recommending our approval as well.
Heartily, I would.
Yes, okay, good. And also, even though this is a joint county city project, and the fact that the county hasn't approved it yet, that doesn't mean that we can't. And so I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve this plan. And I'll ask for a motion.
I would love to make a motion. I'm proud to move to approve the Moab City Planning Resolution 12-2025, a resolution approving the 2025 non-motorized master trail plan as prepared by the Grand County Active Transportation and Trails Department.
Motion by Colin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tawny. Further discussion, Colin.
None. Thank you.
Tawny? Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. I mean, I just want to say, I don't know where the county's going to go with this, but this is our plan. So whatever the county's decision is the county's decision. This is our plan. This is what we decided. So this is what we'll be following. And if they make any amendments, that's their prerogative. But this plan is what we want to move forward with. And I guess for staff purposes, we need to add this plan to our agenda summaries when we are doing projects that this plan would be incorporated into.
Yeah, it's an adopted master plan now. It'll also influence the transportation master plan. So.
Right. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Congrats.
Yep, good work. All right, next up, item 6.2 under general business, consideration of approval of the appointments to the Recreation Arts and Parks RAP Technical Advisory Committee, the RAP Act. And so you guys did you get everybody's applications? Okay. And so I'm just going to recommend, based on the recommendation from from Kelly and the RAPTAC. I mean, there wasn't enough people to actually make the recommendation, but we had 4 applicants, excellent applicants. Sandra, she left, but she's one of our applicants. And I'm going to recommend that we appoint Sandra Billy at large position for 12/31/2027. That's when her term will end. And I don't have the names of Diego or Andrea. But Diego, I want to recommend him as an at-large position. His term will end 12/31/28. Linda Nesty as our arts representative from her term will end 12/31/28. And Andrea, I don't have her last name.
Sally?
Quarterselli.
Okay. And she will be a recreation representative and her term will end 12/31/28. Any questions?
His last name is Velasquez.
Thank you. Sorry. I guess I wasn't very prepared for this one. Excited to have these people join.
Yeah, what a
And
great
so, yeah, it's gonna be a really good group. And the first thing you guys will be thinking about is the bylaws. So motion to approve my recommendation.
I will make a motion to approve the mayor's recommendation for appointees for the Recreation, Arts and Parks Technical Advisory Committee.
Great. Motion by Jason. Do I have a second?
Can second that.
Second by Colin. Any discussion?
No.
Colin?
What a great group of candidates.
Yep. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5. Thank you. All right. Didar, I guess you're up. And Obi is here. If you guys have any questions, this is a consideration of a grant award to Expedia Power in the amount of $139,394.50 for the wastewater utility vehicle garage electric and heating project. And so this is in their budget. It's a little bit over what you guys put out there, but it's still within their, it doesn't go outside of their budget, if that makes sense, right?
And I can elaborate on that if you'd like.
We'll let Didar go.
Yeah, that's what it's.
All right.
So go ahead.
I just gonna I don't have a presentation. I don't think we need to look at any plans. It's very technical.
Well, then I'll elaborate on that. So, when we approve a budget, we do our best job at estimating costs. And sometimes, if you believe it or not, the bids actually come in lower. And although this one came in a little bit higher, we did have one that came in a little bit lower. So overall, this budget, this capital portion of this budget is still under budget.
Can I run through the summary really quick? So just want to mention that what we're doing really quick.
Yep, no, that's good.
I'm gonna refer WRF, which is water reclamation facility. So this is on the end of the 400 node right now. Maybe there will be a new entrance for the wetlands. So this site is recently opened 2018. That's the year I started working at the city. And so it's a moving and working site. So it's not being completely done. We're still gonna do more improvements. When our populations increase, there will be more elements gonna enter to this site. So one of them was a utility garage. It's needed by OB staff for the all-weather condition. They can store their vehicles and maintain them. And 2024, which is last year, we put the shell there, but there is no power. So there is no power to turn on the the doors, or there is no AC unit in there. So there's no climate control. And we put our landscape in. Only things missing right now is power and then the heating. So we put the bids out. We got 2 bids. They are pretty close to each other. It's on the agenda items. So the difference less than $8,000. Michael already mentioned about where the budget comes from, but that's it.
Yeah, and where the budget comes from is from the restricted funds in the sewer department. So it's an enterprise fund.
Yep. Questions?
I have 2.
Sure, go ahead.
Why wasn't HVAC power? Why wasn't electric provided when the building was first?
So we were doing step by step. So the first step was just the structure, and we were not ready for the full setup. We need to go through the site plan approval like everybody else. So we kind of work on step by step. Mm-hmm.
Great. And then my second question, why is it necessary to bring in the gas line? Could you just power this using electric service?
That's a good question. So we go around with the gas because usually that's the cheapest route.
And that's why we choose to have a gas. But sure, everything is possible. You can have a electric powered heating too. Yes.
Yeah, you can. I guess just thinking about that, and thinking about, you know, URC and all of the renewable energy goals that the city has to go with electric, I think from my view would have been more in alignment with those goals, but so
I definitely acknowledge and we are aware of that happen.
so that's
Okay. Anybody else? Have a motion? To approve the contract award to Expedia Power.
I can move to award the contract for the WRF Utility Vehicle Garage Electric and Heating Project to Expedia Power Inc. in the amount of $139,394.50 and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Thanks, Tawny. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Caitlin. Any discussion, Tawny?
No.
Caitlin?
I'm going to approve because you guys have put together the plans. I would love to encourage city to continue to consider electric renewable.
You know, it would be interesting to know the cost difference between, you know, ongoing.
Mhm.
Because I think that, you know, electric is more expensive than gas. And so it'd be interesting to just know what the difference would be
Yeah.
as on a monthly basis to use gas as opposed to electric.
If you'd like to look at that sometime, we did that with our energy audit. I think we looked at some of that stuff, and a lot of times it's double initial, but ongoing, we can look into that as
Right.
well. If the council, another topic.
Okay.
So,
All right. We have a motion. Anybody else have any discussion? All right. Motion by Tawny, seconded by Caitlin. I'm going to do this as a roll call because it's expenditure of funds. Caitlin?
Aye.
Colin?
Aye.
Tawny?
Aye.
Luke?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have Alexi again for item, okay, this is gonna be a little confusing, so bear with me. We have two items, 6.4 and 6.5. 6.4 is the consideration of the adoption of City of Moab Resolution 13-2025, a resolution to adopt the water shortage response plan as prepared by Moab City staff. And Alexi will explain this, but just so you know, this is in case there's an emergency and we have a water shortage. For example, when the water main line broke when we had the flood, you know, and there was a water shortage there to get the water across the creek to the south side. So that's what this is about. It's not about a drought. It's about if we have an emergency water shortage that we're not planning for, what we're going to do. And so the first item is you're going to approve the establishment of the plan. Then item 6.5 is the approval of an ordinance that actually allows us to implement the plan. So Alexi's going to give you a brief presentation on what the water shortage plan is, and then we'll have two motions, resolution and an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. So there will be a presentation before this piece, the resolution piece, and then I'll just roll into the specific code things once we get to the next agenda item. And this presentation will start with why we're talking about a water shortage response plan. I'll talk a little bit about the timeline of the planning process, and then about the actual content of the plan. So we're talking about the water shortage response plan because the state requires us to have a water conservation plan that we have to update every 5 years. Our 2021 approved water conservation plan update included a drought response plan. Since a lot of our water comes from springs or wells, rather than specifically a drought plan, it made more sense for us to have a water shortage plan because our water shortages could be caused by something other than drought and maybe even more likely to be caused by something besides a drought. The purpose of the plan is to be prepared for a short-term water shortage. This would be something like an equipment malfunction, distribution failure, contamination, potentially a drought, or anything else that might cause a shortfall in the supply we can provide of water compared to the demand at the time. This is separate from our water conservation plan. It is separate from other long-term types of planning. It's really targeted at those acute situations. And that's like the way it's designed. So it wouldn't even really be appropriate for anything more than these sort of short-term emergencies. This is where, under the D, drought management plan, that is where we're pulling this from, as something that the city committed to doing in our water conservation plan to the state. We will be updating this coming up in 2026. All right, timeline wise, we did the conservation plan in 21. We did follow up on some things that were in there, doing other water planning, looking at smart watering systems for our parks. We adopted a landscape ordinance to encourage water conservation among residents and businesses in town. Then going into the actual water shortage response, that started at the beginning of this year with the Planning Commission. We had an initial discussion in March to try to get a feel for what this should look like. We had staff review it, including OB and Public Works. Then we had our attorney review it, and we brought it back to Planning Commission for another workshop, and then also for consideration for recommendation. They did recommend the plan, and they also had a public hearing on the ordinance and recommended that as well. So here we are tonight talking about the city council consideration, and then some of this water talk will continue because in 2026 we will have to update that conservation plan. So to break down what our agenda items are, the water shortage response plan is in the resolution. That includes details on how you would initiate a water shortage or terminate one, what the different response stages would be if we did have one. It refers to another plan, which we'll look at the reference. I won't take you through another plan on what we would do if we did have an emergency and how we would try to replace water, who we would notify, and then exemptions and exceptions for situations in which the conservation measures for the short term don't match up with somebody's health or safety needs. And then it also mentions enforcement, which is really handled by the code changes. So that will be in the next agenda item for code changes in an ordinance. So here's what the plan looks like. I'm going to kind of walk you through the structure, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. So we start off with principles, like how we decided which things would be appropriate to include in this plan. From there are actual different kinds of conservation measures that would affect the level of shortage that we have. So that starts from stage 1, which is normal, no restrictions. It's what we're doing right now, all the way up to an emergency. From there, we get to some of those other aspects that I said would be included, like notification, exemptions, exceptions. So I think the principles are pretty important here. We have in here that the plan, the purpose is to prioritize water for drinking, health, sanitation, and fire protection. The idea of sticking these in here is if at some point we're questioning whether something actually belongs in this plan, these are the guiding principles. Staying within our available supplies, people have access to water, maintaining equity. So everybody in our system, in our like Moab City system, would have access to water. Preserving when we can, trees, shrubs, perennials, plants that have a lot of investment in them and would be very hard to replace. And that collaborating is the preferred method for us to reduce water. Okay, so the way this would be initiated is utility service director would look at the supply and the demand of water currently. If there's an imbalance or a foreseeable shortage, they could recommend to the city manager that we enter a water shortage. And from there, we could initiate one. Likewise, if those responses, those conditions change and they've subsided, we don't need it anymore, director can recommend that we either move to a lower level of an emergency or we just terminate the water shortage, we're fine. And at the discretion of the city manager, we would switch stages. the way this would be determined is through this trigger formula. So it's literally looking at how much water we have available and how much demand, which we would know at the time. You can see that in a normal month, we have a lot more water than we actually need. And then this table below shows that once we start getting below 120%, that would be abnormal. We would start recommending some changes to people. Once we get really close, like a warning or the critical stage or an emergency where we have less water than we're using, the measures become mandatory. I won't take you through every requirement in here, but this table is a summary. The solid dots are mandatory measures. You can see those don't even come into play until we're at a warning stage, where we're getting pretty close on what we have available and what we're using. Prior to that, an advisory, this would be more of an education outreach kind of thing to let people know that it would be good to cut back. And in a normal stage, just normal best practices. By the time you get to critical and emergency, we're having some sort of severe shortage and more things become mandatory. These are outlined in the plan. I'm going to go down to the warning stage so you can see how they're divided up. I'm happy to answer questions about what's in each of these. So it splits up what's voluntary and then what's mandatory and describes like limiting hours of watering, for example. Okay, here's the emergency replacement water supply. The city has a 2015 plan about evaluating our system for vulnerabilities. So this is partly a prevention plan, but also partly an emergency response plan if we're trying to get water to people. So instead of trying to redo that, we're just referencing this plan that already exists. Public Works provided a copy. So that would be the procedure we would go into if we started needing to supply water. The exemptions and exceptions are also in the code, but essentially this regulates water that the city is providing. And we tried to leave out things that are required for health and safety. If, for example, we didn't leave something out in an exemption, there is an exception process in which somebody could ask for that exception because of something related to health and safety, extreme economic hardship. Anything like that would be something that they could then apply to the city to get an exception. Enforcement would be through the code changes, which we'll consider in the next agenda item. Are there any questions?
Questions for Lexi? Could I have a motion then to approve the plan?
Looks like Luke's trying to.
You probably want to look at your agenda.
It's 13/2025, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I move to approve Moab City Resolution 13-2025.
I'll second. Okay. We got a motion by Luke to approve the City of Moab's Resolution 13/2025 to adopt the water shortage response plan is prepared by the staff. Motion by Luke, seconded by Caitlin. Any discussion, Luke?
No.
Caitlin? No. Anybody else? Folks?
Thank you. It seems pretty.
Yeah. All right. Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
I knew that was gonna pass. But you have to vote. Okay, so next up is the ordinance. And like I said, this is kind of the law that allows us to enforce the plan. Did I say that right?
Yes, this is the legislative action that gives the authority to enforce.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to summarize the changes. I'll show you this and then I'll show you the update to the master fee schedule. And what we're proposing is that we would cut section that currently is entitled Water Use During Shortages Restrictions. We would replace that with a new chapter, Water Use During Shortages, that would include information about how to trigger the water shortage response plan. We already discussed how to trigger and how it would be then ended. The enforcement piece of this would go through non-compliance. The mandatory conservation actions in those stages 3, 4, and 5 would then trigger fines. And then the fines increase depending on the level of severity of our emergency. So at a warning, it would be a $250 fine, at a critical 500, and emergency 750. After 3 violations in a 12-month period, then somebody could be subject to a flow restrictor, interruption of service, some other corrective action to make sure that people aren't using water that we don't have. We talked a little bit about the exemptions and exceptions. This is where they would be codified. I will move to the fee schedule, which is just the official place where these would be located. So those would be the updates, and then there are the 3 lines for warning, critical, and emergency. Are there any questions?
I have two.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting with the fee schedule, I would like to throw out a consideration that we increase these fees. If looking at what else is 250 is prohibited signs and chickens. Everything else that is typical kind of code enforcement related starts at 500. I think for us to elevate to the level where we're having statewide community-wide, citywide mandated restrictions, it should be at a full code enforcement level. So would throw out for discussion, potential amendment to increase each of these by $250 each. So starting stage 3, or I'm wondering, Alexi, if you have explanation from Planning Commission why these were the fees that were set, but that would be my recommendation. Because also even thinking about $1,000 sounds like a lot, but that is, if you scroll up, that's the Class B misdemeanor level, like biggest violations within this schedule. I think if someone is violating at a class or a stage 5, that I have no problem with saying that deserves $1,000 fine. So that's my first thing. So I'll pause there. I have one other thing too.
So Alexi, how did we come up with this fee structure?
Fee structure is pulled from essentially other fees that are in here without being immediately too punitive. It would be possible to increase them. And then keep in mind too that they would add up if you continued to violate. So I'm open to whatever the council wants to do.
Yeah, because this is much more serious than chickens.
Well,
And then, if we're going through a water shortage, we need to be, I feel like, hardcore. That's just my opinion. So I agree with you, but
So I think you're on the right track. I think this is pretty hardcore, to be honest with you. But the initial stages I think should be reasonable because people, may not get the information right off the bat. But obviously, when you get to stage 5, we're not going to argue with you about it being as much as you want it to be, because at that point, everybody should know what is going on. Stage 5 emergency affects everybody.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I was gonna say too, is like, I can see the warning being at 250 and then, the stage 4 and 5 being escalated, cause some people just may not know, or may not realize they're causing issues, and stuff. So I think that,
well, I was just gonna say, how are we gonna know? If people are from their bill?
their water meter.
Yeah.
I think reporting water meters, I think we'll know. I think if someone's getting charged for this, it's gonna be blatant. I think we would give people hopefully a courtesy warning first if it's.
In general, when we notify people of things, if they are responsive, we don't initiate fines for it, like if they rectify the issue. So I wouldn't see somebody who just didn't know and then who was informed and then stopped probably being fined like this. We would have the option, but typically when people go through like the code compliance or compliance process with this sort of thing, if they are notified and then immediately change something or call the city and say, I didn't know, I'm changing it, they don't enter into a fine.
It seems like this would be something that if in the event that we have a water short, we'll have to do massive social media and outreach to get the word out and to let people know if you're in violation, this is where it's gonna go. I mean, hopefully we'll never have to do this, but if we do, we would have to do a big outreach.
Yeah, and I've talked to Lisa. So if these are approved, our plan is to have some materials on call for this. So if we did have an emergency, we would be ready to roll some things out. We would have to do written notice for it to be legal, and then we would do all kinds of other things just so people would know.
Yeah, we would have message boards at all the major streets and entrances to the areas and things like that. It most likely be in the news as well. We would be all out there, and our staff would be knocking on doors as
Is
well.
that in the plan?
We have the notification list.
Okay.
So those would be the ways and people who would be notified. And then the materials are not in the plan, but upon approval, I will work with Lisa, and we've talked about it already. So she was suggesting some things that we could do.
Can you explain to me like what, so 250 infraction up to 750? What is,
So 3 infractions. So if you did it 3 times, then you could have up to 750. After that 4th one, then you could have like a flow restrictor or something like that. At that point, you probably wouldn't be fined anymore. The city would be considering how
once you
to
hit
limit the
750
water.
cap, then you're gonna get the flow restrictor or something like that.
Mhm.
You're gonna get your water taken away, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I can see
Not
like,
completely. It's a flow restrictor.
Right.
You should still be able to drink things like that,
Right.
but you want to be able to water your lawn.
Right, because that's where the biggest violation would be, I would imagine.
Yeah, like when you said, how would we know? For example, I'm gonna go back to the plan. Up on our table where we have when things are mandatory, you'll see that indoor excess, things like running the water while you're brushing your teeth, it's always a recommendation, like it's a voluntary measure, and that's because we have no intention of actually going into somebody's house and seeing if the water's on while they're brushing their teeth. So we didn't want to pretend like that was something we were going to do. So it's a strong recommendation, but that's not something we would enforce. We tried to leave things that would be potential, like that we could potentially catch, like lawn watering, washing a car with your hose during, things that would be visible to somebody else or to the city. Water features, yeah, like if your fountain's running, things like that.
Yeah, if the hospital doesn't have any water, but you've got water going in your water fountain, that's gonna be a problem. People are gonna notice and there's gonna be complaints.
So let's go back to the fees.
So I guess that's it, because we're gonna go incremental, right? You'd issue stage 2.
Yeah.
We'd be there, and then we can hit stage 3. So, I mean, I guess that said, I'd be okay with 250. I definitely think those other 2 need to be higher. Because by then you should know.
I don't really have an appetite either.
Yeah, I guess like if somebody's violating that, like regardless, is the amount of money that we can fine them going to be necessarily like the prohibitive thing that's going to stop them from doing it? I guess like, could they be like escalatory within each stage, where it's like the first one is like 500 and then 750 and then 1,000?
I think we should leave it, and then if this comes up, and we've never had this situation come up before, right? If it does come up, we can
No, he's doing emergency order.
address it,
Would these be in our fee schedules?
Yes.
We can always modify our fee schedule anytime.
Yeah, but are we gonna remember that? It's like if
Well,
we're
we
gonna
probably won't hopefully be.
Yeah, but
And if this doesn't work in an emergency, we'll have a lot of resources that we can help to get this to work. If it doesn't work in emergency, we'll come to council and we can make it an emergency. You can do an emergency action, do whatever we have to do to make it work. Because when we get to these points, it could end up being, in some cases, life or death. And it could, it means everything. So all of our focus will be on this. I don't think we'll remember to just look at this in a year or two. It'll be if something happens and it's not effective, we'll be coming in and saying we need to do something right now. And it could be a lot of different things. We'd have to lean on the city attorney what we could do. But if you did want to leave it right here, right now, these are pretty significant fines. I think it would get people's attention.
Can we like tie it to inflation, like rounded to the nearest $50 or something? Could,
Like each year, have it go up.
or like every 5 years, like just have it like auto
I think
update.
everything should.
Well, I
go
think
up every year.
we
Yeah.
kind of look at these every year.
Yeah, we
so,
do.
Yeah.
Kind of bump them up accordingly.
It, yeah, would be possible whenever you're updating the fee schedule, if other things are getting bumped up, to bump these up in the same way.
Yeah, it's a whole nother discussion. Have something about fee schedule that just automatically increases by COLA.
Right, right.
But I think realistically, we're not gonna do that. I definitely hear you. What's the difference between 750 and 1,000 or similar? But I mean, realistically, we're not gonna come back. I also think that it is better to do it now than for us to hit an emergency level and decide to increase our fees. Then that's gonna look really, look and feel really painful, as an action by the city.
My guess is if we ever get to critical level 5, finding people is gonna be the least of our worries.
I agree. And we talk a lot about community and how close of a community this is. I think there's a lot to be said as far as that goes too. And these fines, they're suggestive, and if somebody wants to continue and violate them, I mean, I guess we can keep fining them. But I think most people are just gonna come in line just because it's the right thing to do. We put these fines in there just to show that we're serious. And to give us some teeth if we had to go out and we did have to enforce, but
You know what else comes to mind though, and I don't want to drag this on too long because we still have more to talk about tonight, but you know, the hotels and their water features and their swimming pool. I mean, that's what I hear from
Yeah.
our residents. It's like, I'm not turning off my sprinklers because the hotels have these big swimming pools and they have their big water features. And I know I'm kind of getting in the weeds, but it seems to me that they should get fined more if we have a situation like this. I don't know. It gets
Totally.
kind of complicated and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but
good point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because I think, I mean, lodging laundry is one of the things that becomes immediately mandatory. So, yeah, whether it's 250, I mean, that's, you could even put a flow restrictor on hotel and they're
they're still gonna do
care.
it. Right.
So,
Although if we don't have any water, people probably aren't gonna come. I mean, that's gonna affect, there's a whole trickle down effect. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Trickling, but sorry. All right, what do we want to do here?
it seems like I'm the only one that cares, so we can move on.
No, you're not the only one that cares.
I can move on to my other item for consideration.
Okay.
This is more in 13.30. And this is super simple, but scrolling down in the very last line in the exceptions, thought it might be worthwhile to add an exception for exception shall be reviewed and approved by the city manager, providing language that the city manager may also deny a request for an exception. I feel like it's implied, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
We
we
run
could,
across that a lot. It's like, oh, I have to approve this.
right, we put approve/deny.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or, I mean, it's even just using the same, for utility services director above, that it could be approved or denied or request modification.
Oh,
Yeah, shall be reviewed, but may be approved or denied.
mm-hmm.
Like, you have to consider it, but you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's my other thing.
Good one.
Do you want to make a motion? You don't have to. Does anybody else want to make a motion?
Are we making a change?
The only thing I think is being recommended is if you want to update the fees And if you want to change the exception to include the city manager approves / denies.
I have one more. We refer to 13.30 as a section. It's a chapter. It's a Scrivener's error. But that can be said as it's a chapter.
So that's in the motion. Amending section 3.50-180, amending 13.20-030 and adding chapter.
Chapter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can say that in the motion.
Yes.
Sure, I'll give it a try. See what people decide to do. I motion to approve ordinance 2025-18 and ordinance amending the text of Moab Municipal Code, amending section 3.50.180, amending 13.20.030, and adding chapter 13.30. Sure. Should I just say chapter there? Yeah, that's good. To include additional regulations required for short-term shortages of water within the city of Moab with the following amendments. First to in chapter 13.30, adding the ability for the city manager to deny or modify an exception request. And number 2, increasing the water shortage violation at stage 4 critical to $750 per infraction up to $2,250. And for a violation at stage 5, $1,000 per infraction up to $3,000.
All right, motion by Caitlin,
I'd like to second that.
second by Colin. Discussion, Caitlin.
That's it.
Colin?
I think this is serious enough a matter that, just our due diligence right now with, setting, yes, that deterrent value. I think this is important enough.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, this happens like so far down the road that we are accounting for inflation now.
I think so.
All right, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, roll call. Caitlin.
Aye.
Colin.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Luke.
Aye.
Jason.
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1 with Jason in opposition. Thank you. And I'm certain the reason you're in opposition is because you don't agree with the fee increase.
I think the fees, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Your water feature. My aunt is.
See, Caitlin, I told you other people care.
That big aunt is-
Yeah.
It should be the
Okay.
top fee.
All right, next thing we've got up is general business item 6.6, consideration of adoption of resolution 14-2025, a resolution granting an exception to the sidewalk requirement as set forth in the Moab Municipal Code, section 12-08-060, allowing a fee in lieu for a waiver of the requirements to construct sidewalk, curb, and gutter all along street frontages for the CHP commercial site plan. Now, just so you guys know, what this is a fee. Instead of requiring the applicant, who is here if you have any questions, to do the curb and gutter and the sidewalk, because there is none down there. And you know how our city is, where we have some places with sidewalks and some places with not. Because there isn't a sidewalk there now, this is a fee in lieu of that. So whenever we get to the point where we would construct a sidewalk or curb and gutter down there, there would be money in the bank to do that rather than having the applicant do it now. So that we don't have just a curb and gutter and a sidewalk in front of one facility. We know how frustrating that is. That's what this is. So Johanna and Corey, take it away. I hope I explained that good.
Yeah, I'd say. So we're looking at the property at 1053 West, 400 North, close to the water treatment plant. This is currently a residential lot, but it's proposed to be mixed use with industrial and residential. Their frontage is 415 feet. So Patrick Davis submitted this application for a special exception mid-November. What triggered it was they're going through a level 2 site plan to install an industrial building on the property. And this has triggered compliance with 1208-060, which requires them to make sidewalk, curb, and gutter improvements. So here's a conceptual site plan. This existing building is a home. And then the new building is going to be for different kinds of industrial and storage uses. So this is the criteria from the code to evaluate whether or not a property can be considered for this exception to pay fee in lieu. So their frontage exceeds 200 feet. Yes, it's around 400. Lot is intended for only a single household residence. Currently, that's true, but if they pursue this site plan, which we are right now, that won't be true. Construction of is inconsistent with street character, kind of double negative there. It won't be inconsistent. Yes, the closest sidewalk is a couple hundred feet away from them. And it will not create a half paved street. And this stretch of 400 North is not called out in any of our plans that discuss sidewalk.
I have a question about 400 North down there. Yeah. Isn't it a county road?
Thank you.
Part of it is.
Yeah, well, that's.
No, 400,
Yeah,
400
there
North
are
is
sections
about
that are, and there are sections that are not.
650 west down to Stewart Lane, I believe it's county road.
We can pull, let me pull a parcel map up and share that.
My neighborhood.
Yeah, yes, let me pull that up for you.
I guess I have a secondary question. Is there any kind of like legal consideration or any consideration for, even though that second question is kind of no, we can still approve this as being recommended?
Yeah, I mean, when we annex property, we generally annex the road in front of them as well. So if this property is in the city, then a portion of that road is a portion of the city's road as well. So we can bring up the map and show you what the map shows, but we don't annex properties that you can't access. So when we annex properties, that's part of the thing, is we have to be able to provide services to them. And if the road is city road for any portion, we would have continued that down. So just see what the map shows. Yeah.
Okay, I guess clarifying my question, I meant more specifically, the lot is not intended for single family household residence. I mean, I would argue it's your home, it's also you own your business as well on that property. So it is a business use, but it's all under one.
It's interpretation, yeah.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure we can interpret it that way.
In short, while we're pulling the map up to demonstrate, this section of right of way is in the city limits. That being said, the improvements, as Michael mentioned, are specific to that in the aspect of improvements for the development. So that infrastructural improvement would not be in the county's jurisdiction anyway if that section of the road, depending on where it was, that interface actually exists. So that wasn't terribly clear. Hopefully when we pull the map up, you'll see the entirety of this section of road is in the city limits and in our jurisdiction. So it is our road.
The county just chip sealed it.
There could be, if our engineers who have left, the coordination of our interlocal agreements of maintenance of roads is more significant than pure
and
jurisdiction.
frankly,
Okay.
if the county still maintains it and technically it's still a county road, we would go to them and say, we need you to do this for us as part of our process, just like when we work with them on other projects that are the opposite way around, they ask us to do things as well. So, or we could just take the road over from them as well. Not that we take the entire road. Nobody wants us to do that, but generally we do take the frontage of the road when we do annex the property. Not take, it's already public property, but generally we do include the frontage half section of the road when we annex property.
Okay, that might work.
But either way, I think we would be talking to the county about requiring sidewalks on this end.
So, and this is only on 400 North, right?
Yep.
It's not required to do it on the Stewart Lane section.
They're requiring it on Stewart.
It looks like.
So
So it's 450.
correct, yes, it is
Take it
a
down
side,
and then across.
side corner lot. With that Stewart Lane, which is the jurisdictional boundary, is the entirety of the frontage on this property is within city limits. The property to the south. Oh, perfect, thank you. So we can see that cutoff where, again, the coordination of who is maintaining these streets versus jurisdictional authority are two different questions.
Yeah, we're getting Class C road money for those streets.
I have a question about sorry, go ahead, you
No,
go
you go
first. What about the Nature Conservancy putting a parking lot down there? And then are we gonna be requiring them to upgrade that road? Because now all of a sudden, there's gonna be more people driving down there. Maybe.
That's a good question as far as to our unified transportation master plan as mentioned tonight. So within the street, that new trail system is going to be improved entirely out of our jurisdiction. So as you can see to the left, the conservancy area picks up.
Okay.
So all of that improvement won't be within the city limits. So the improvement to all of 400 North, that is a larger consideration as we improve the level of service of that road.
Is everyone clear where the property is on this map?
Yeah. Where Johanna has it.
Yeah, so right there, yeah.
The pink.
So I'm kind of curious why the planning commission, did the planning commission, was their recommendation?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for the payment in lieu because there's just so many variables of what's going to happen on that side of town. And I would even say waive the payment in lieu if they would agree, if there's somehow we could come to some sort of agreement that once it happens, because that's been like that for forever, and who knows what's going to happen, or that road may get expanded, it may get things may change down there, and I think it doesn't make sense to have these guys do this. So I don't know, I'd make a motion to the city of Moab to approve the exception, of having them put in sidewalk, curb and gutter, not having them do that and allowing it. What's the right?
Without that's in it.
No, I think, I don't know, I guess do we have any foresight of what's gonna happen down there? Cause I mean, it could be, a lot of those businesses down there have been there for 50, 60 years, or those properties have been down there
Yeah, there's foresight. I mean, there's transportation master plan, and this would be either a collector or minor collector road. And the minor collector road or collector road will have a cross section, and that cross section will be what the plan is. I think it's wise to not get too far ahead and put in a bunch of infrastructure before we actually have plans for the road. So I think a fee in lieu does make sense down here. But just like we're talking about with River Sands Road, we don't there's talk about River Sands Road and how it's never been maintained and the county hasn't brought it up and we don't want to take it over in that shape. Well, I think it's wise for the council to consider that in the future, we're gonna need this fee in lieu to help pay for this road. So I think it's wise to not require them to do it, but I do think a fee in lieu
Makes
is,
sense.
does
Agreed,
make
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to, are you
You
gonna?
gonna make the motion
Yeah.
here?
Do we have an opportunity to speak or before you guys make a motion?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, sure, if there's something you would like to say about, come on up.
Well, I guess our main concern is, we're discussing the WRF facility at the sewer plant. So it's a building about the same size as us. There's 4 requirements to meet this exception, to not do sidewalks. So we don't meet all 4, but we at least have a single family home on it. So my question to you guys is, how did the sewer plant move forward with the facility and not put sidewalk, curb and gutter on their facility?
Go ahead, I have no
I
idea.
can answer that. Cause we're the ones who are gonna end up paying for it in the future. So we actually put the money aside in terms to pay for that in the future. We're not going back to any other property owner and saying, hey, you need to pay for this now. We're coming to ourselves and we will pay for putting in the sidewalk in the future.
Okay, no, that's, so we're a small. Go.
The other interesting thing about that property is that the property boundary is in the middle of the intersection. So that's something to consider as well when you're talking about like future planning of the road. The sidewalks would, take up a large.
Yeah, through the site planning process, there should be some exactions. The road width that's in the transportation master plan will be part of the site plan, and that will be required to be dedicated at the time of site plan. So we won't put the sidewalk in the middle of the road. We'll actually move that line to where the actual boundary should be.
So how
It's
does
another
that
process.
How does that affect, like, so when the city takes property away from us, because like, for example, right now, our property line is in the middle of 400 North in the middle of Stewart Lane. So when you guys move our property line in and you take property away from us.
Yeah, that's not the application that we're talking about right now. So I don't want to get into a bunch of detail and back and
Okay,
forth.
sorry.
But it's not a taking. It's actually part of a development process. A taking is a legal thing where the city can't take property from people without just compensation. This is actually what's called an exaction. That's part of your site plan approval and it's part of a give and take. If you want to develop a property, you have to have a sufficient road in front of you to do that. So it's part of that process. Okay. Which is not part of this process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To sidetrack you all. Yeah, but we're a little background on us. We're a small electrical company. We started operating out of our home down there on Bartlett and we outgrew that. So we bought this industrial property. We're hoping to build a large storage facility, mostly for construction equipment. And we got led down this road a little bit actually by the planning and zoning department. We met with them to decide proper zoning and coding. And they suggested that there's several other businesses in town that need space to operate. So we're trying to help out other local businesses and get a space for our equipment as well. So
Definitely a need.
Yeah.
Definitely a need. Go ahead.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Jason, do you want to continue with your motion? You want me to?
Go ahead, Colin. You make it.
No.
Well, he offered.
So bad about your water feature.
No, yeah.
Whoever wants to do it can do it. You offered to make the motion.
Go for it.
Okay. I move that the Moab City Council approve Moab City Resolution 14-2025, a planning resolution approving the sidewalk, curb, and gutter special exemption request for property at 1053 West 400 North, Moab, Utah 84532.
Motion by Colin. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Luke. Discussion, Colin?
No, I think we've covered it.
Luke?
Yep.
Anybody else?
No, I was gonna say, I do have a little bit of heartburn. I know it's like starting out a business and having to come up with 30 grand, to put for something, and that's, to me, that's like a pretty hard pill to follow for small business, and stuff. And so, I don't know how you guys are paying for this or whatever, but essentially you are paying for it, and for something that we do need to protect the future, and you guys may sell it and that money still stays there to take care of the sidewalk and curb and gutter. But I guess I have heartburn over that for you guys, and stuff. And I wish there was a way to, reduce that for, young businesses, stuff. But
And I think it did get reduced, right? It's the value of 200 feet of, I suppose, was there a reduction of the?
I think it's gonna be the cheapest it's ever gonna be, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know what the calculation is.
It's a flat rate calculation on 200 feet of type of improvement. That's not to say all the improvements that might go along the actual improvement. So I think that's, well, this is the cheapest it will ever be, and also will build out for
Right.
full comprehensive construction.
So if sidewalk goes in 10 years, let's say, it won't be that long, I think, but say it goes in 10 years, price is quadrupled, you guys won't be responsible for that. The fee that you pay today will cover it, even though it'll cost more.
Okay, so we have a motion by Colin, second by Luke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Roll call. Caitlin?
Aye.
Colin?
Aye.
Tawny?
No.
Luke?
Aye.
Jason? Motion passes 4-1 with Tawny in opposition. Thank you.
I'm still
guys.
having
Good luck
heartburn
with your
over who
business.
owns the road. I think it's them.
Well, you can spend Class B money in the city, but you can't spend Class C money outside of the city.
I know.
So,
All right, moving on. Item 6.7, consideration of adoption of resolution 11-2025, a resolution of the governing body of the city of Moab declaring certain property owned by the city of Moab as surplus. Summer, this is 3. Summer will, if you have any questions, she's here to answer them, but this is 3 of the police vehicles. So if you have any questions, I'll just go ahead and ask for a motion. Unless you have a question.
I move to adopt resolution 11-2025, declaring certain property owned by the city of Moab as surplus.
Motion by Tawny, second by,
Second that.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right. It was Colin. And then we have consideration of adoption of ordinance 2025-19, ordinance to initiate the establishment of the City of Moab Data Privacy Program, designate the chief administrative and authorized record officers, require records for proof of officer and employee privacy training, prepare website data privacy policy note, endorse the state of Utah's data privacy policy, and complete City of Moab Internet Data Privacy Program report. So I don't want anybody to have to repeat that motion, so you could say so moved. But basically what this is required by state code to create the rules to protect the public from the data that we collect from them, and designating Summer as that administrative officer.
also takes the fall.
I do, but I'm coming to you for backup.
So if I could have a motion, unless you have any questions.
So moved.
Moved by Colin,
I'll second.
second by Tommy. Any discussion?
Could you say that again?
No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right. we've got two more items. One is the item that was tabled, but we'll go with 6.9, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2025-17, an ordinance establishing the Affordable Housing Partnership Policy and Impact Fees Assistance Program to support affordable housing development in Moab. And we've all had a conversation, and Caitlin,
I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation, go sit in the audience, declaring a potential conflict of interest as a potential affordable housing developer that would apply for this fund. So
thank you, Caitlin.
have a good discussion.
Yep. And just so everybody knows also, Caitlin was able to provide her input as a developer because this policy was collaborated with our developers. So it wasn't like she was left out because we know that she's key in housing development in Moab. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, Michael. We've all had conversations about this. I think it's a really good policy and a way to move forward.
So I won't go through the entire policy again, but if you saw the background and the policy that I sent out, there was a lot of there were changes. It looked like a lot of changes. The changes come down to a couple of specific things, and I'll get into that in just a second. And we'll talk about the major thing, which is the matrix, which we'll be able to go over together and mess around with a little bit as well. But the goal of doing this process in the first place is to try and support Moab's affordable housing goals and to get things in place that can help reduce impact fees so that we can encourage affordable housing development. And when we talk about affordable housing development, we're talking about deeded, restricted affordable housing, not just small houses or smaller units that are still at market rate, but things that are deeded for a period of time and are available only to a segment of the population earning under or up to an AMI that's consistent with affordable housing. And we'll go over all that in just a minute. And, you know, we're also thinking about the fiscal needs that we have. The city does not have infinite resources. So this policy is thinking about that as well and how to further the goals, but also protect those resources that the city has. So the modifications of the policy are pretty straightforward. It introduces a structured tiered approach, and this is supposed to help us to determine what waiver levels are appropriate for each type of development. And that's really the matrix. And I'll leave that for now. I won't go into more detail on that because we'll go into a lot of detail in a minute. The matrix considers how long the deed restriction is and the affordability of the available and the available funding. The two things that go into the matrix are the restriction length, the deed restriction length, and the affordability. So if you consider it a continuum, way up here, the people who would be most qualified, who are developing restricted units that are restricted for 50 years at the deepest affordable rates, less than 30% area median income. They would be the ones that we're targeting and should receive the most consideration. And then you get down to, on that continuum, down to say 10 years at 120% AMI, which is still important. 120% AMI in Moab is still hard to find a house and to be able to pay for something yourself. But they would be qualified for less in that continuum. And then it goes everything from there to there. So that explains the third bullet point and the fourth bullet point. And it also includes provisions now for ADUs and single family homes, which wasn't in the plan before. What it takes out is the loans. The loans are I'm recommending that we take out the loans altogether and that we look at this as a impact fee reduction policy that's funded by resources in the housing fund. And of course, those are not infinite resources, they're finite. So there's only a certain amount you can do, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. It also adds a few things that were suggested by some of the groups that we talked to. There's a new whereas statement. I did use some of the AMI suggestions that were suggested by the professionals in this area and things like that. But the major change to the policy is that it takes out anything related to loans and it leaves a space for the matrix. So the loans, the big issue with the loans is, you know, when I presented to you last time, some of the developers said, well, let's make sure we don't make a policy that's unusable for us. It takes too long. It's not enough of a loan. We have to pay it back too soon. It doesn't help with us with all the things that we're looking at. And in talking to these guys, I just really didn't think we were going to get to a point where we could come up with a loan criteria and terms that would actually work for them. And I could see this policy being created and never used. So if the council wants to move forward and use the resources in the housing fund for this, this is the way that I'm proposing that you do it as a fee reduction policy. So this is the matrix. It's not as exciting as you might have thought based on the name. Yeah. But it is technically, I think, a matrix. It has a bunch of squares and cells and things like that. It adds things up.
Zeros and ones.
Yeah. So I'm just showing you this right now, and then we're gonna jump in and actually do some calculations with it. But it establishes what the maximum amount of fee waiver there could be. And then it starts to go down the line and looks at how long you're going to deed the property for. And if you deed it for more than 50 years, you get 100% of the points possible. And if you do 30 to 49, or I can't read it from here actually, you get a little bit less. You get 75% of the points possible, and then so on and so forth. Then you jump to the next criteria. The next criteria is the AMI. If you're deeding it for 50 years and it's 30% or less AMI, you're going to get 100% of the possible points, and so on and so forth. So in this case, where I'm showing you is a fictional developer is building 70 units, and they're going to deed those for 55 years because they're doing a LIHTC project. And that's what the requirement is for them, is 55 years. And they're going to do that at less than 60% average over all those 70 units. It's going to be less than 60% average AMI. So they're going to get 100% of the points possible for the deed length, and they're going to get 75% of the points possible for the AMI, which puts them at 88% of the total points possible, 88% of $1,000, which is the maximum amount of money available for a waiver of fees, is $875. 875 times 70 comes out to $61,250. And that's how much they'd be qualified for if they were to do exactly what it's saying in this example. If we bring up the actual thing, sorry. Okay, so bring up the actual spreadsheet, and we can do a couple of scenarios in here. Is it at all readable? Because it looks like that's as big as I'm going to be able to get it. So, okay, so we've got the 70, and then we have another developer that comes in, and let's say that developer comes in and does 150 units, but they're gonna deed those over at between 30 and 49 years. And they've got 150 units, and they're going to do that because the target they want to reach to is less than 60% AMI. So they're gonna be in that 59 or 30 to 59% range. So we put an X in there, and what that comes out with is they're at, based on their calculation, they're at 75% of what's possible, which puts them at $750 total available per unit. So each one of their units that qualify, and they have 150 of those units, would be able to get up to $750. And so their potential fee waiver would be $112,500 total, you know, and we keep track of this total as we go along. So the fund has to have enough money in there to continue to do this, obviously. But you can see there that we have a total of 220 units, and we've been able to incentivize in some way the production of these units, and the city has put in $175,000 or $173,750 to help that happen. So it's less than $1,000 a unit. So, and as you work with this, it goes up and down based on whatever the criteria is. If the council were to dedicate $250,000 to this program right now, which is doable with the housing fund that we have, without taking all of the housing fund, then you would be able to incentivize up to 250 units or 250 plus units, because 1,000 is the max. I would suggest that my recommendation is that you do put 250,000 towards this now and adopt this program, but also consider, as the fund increases, which there are opportunities for the fund to increase that to 250,000 more, for a total of $500,000 for this program to incentivize 500 plus units coming online. When we get down to single family and to ADUs, which I think are very important for this process, the amounts get smaller and smaller. Most likely an ADU, someone building an ADU in their yard, is going to be doing that to help subsidize their income and to help pay their mortgage. They're most likely not going to look at deeding that for 50 years. Probably going to be on the lower spectrum, where if they can get some benefits from it, they might look at 10 years, and they might look up between 80 and 120% AMI, because then it would be a lot easier to rent. And plus the rents would be at a place where they might be able to help subsidize their income. So it's not going to be a ton of money. So if I put that in there.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Because there may be people that do ADUs for their in-laws. And so I think, we got to take that into consideration, that they probably will be charging. I mean, there may be some ADUs that would qualify for the more money.
Yeah, I think it's valid. There potentially could be somebody who wants to do that, but not because of this. And the reason why is because the max, most likely the max you're going to qualify for, and that's for restricting your unit for 10 years, is $250. It's not going to be a ton of money, especially when your impact fees could be $3,000 or $4,000, right? So what I would suggest, and this is a totally different process, and I really do think that we need to find a way to incentivize single family and ADUs to a level that's measurable to incentivizing the multifamily units. And the way to do that potentially could be helping in other ways. If we were with ADUs in lots of places, the city will provide plans, pre-drawn plans that are engineered, stamped, everything ready to go. And if they fit your property, you don't have to pay for those. And then because they're one of our plans, permit fees can be a lot less or even waived because of that, like the building inspection fees, the plan review fees, and things like that. So I would suggest that we're not done with this policy, that we continue to look at this and look at the housing fund and the resources in it to find other ways to continue to incentivize onesie twosies, where people are building one or two at a time and not 150 and getting $112,000. They're looking at one unit only getting $250. What else is incentivizing them to then restrict that for a period of time to let people who make less than the AMI or up to 120% of the AMI live there? So
Do you see this for single family homes helping to incentivize people to deed restrict their homes also?
I doubt it. I think this is going to be new construction only. First of all, I think it will be new construction only, because you only pay impact fees on new construction.
Right.
Period.
Gotcha.
So this most likely no one's going to dedicate their house for 50 years at 30% AMI for $1,000. It's just not going to happen. The reality is that most time it's going to be developers who are already coming in to do this. This just helps them get over the line and moves them forward. Would they have done it without this? Who knows? Probably, but still, this does put resources that were collected to to further affordable housing within our community into our community and helping them get over the line so that they can do this. It would not be based on who the developer is, where they're from, anything like that, whether you're a big developer, small developer, an ADU developer, a single family person building on one lot, it would be the same for everybody. And I had initially toyed around with having different tiers, like for a single family, you only get $750, and for ADU, you get $250. That didn't make a lot of sense at all. In fact, you could even go the other direction and say single family is something that we really need more of, that where people can buy an actual single family home in our city that they can afford at 100% AMI. Maybe the incentive should be higher for single family. And those are things that can be considered. Everything up there in gray are the factors that the council could modify now, later, anytime you want. It's a policy. You'd never have to approve one of these things if you don't want to. You don't even have to fund it if you don't want to. But I think the direction I received was, if the council wanted to do this, what would be the best way to do it that you can think of? And this is the best way that I can think of right now. If I had another year, maybe I'd think of a few more, but this is the one that I can think of right now that I think puts our money where our mouth is and gets it out there so that we can incentivize, even in a small way, building affordable housing within our community. There were some other comments from a letter that was received today, and I just wanted to go over those. I'm just going to stop sharing. I wanted to just quickly mention those. And probably doesn't seem like anything's going quick tonight, but I'll try and quickly do this. So the big things that they mentioned in the letter were, don't rush the program, expand the eligibility up to 120% AMI, have a variety of housing uses, create a tiered dual loan program process, vet the developers financially, have the loans, if we do loans, to be short terms, higher rates if they are longer terms, charge interest for loans, and identify ongoing funding sources. I want to address these really quick because I think some of these we do address with this new policy. Develop the program thoughtfully. I feel like I've put a lot of thought into this. I think we could take a lot of time to continue working on this, and we could come up with lots of different options. But I think, we have this opportunity now, and we've been asked, it's given us the impetus to move forward. And I think this is a good time. I think over the last 2 months, there's been a lot of thought put into this. And I think this is a pretty good program here. If you agree, I think that'd be great. If not, you're the policymakers. So the eligibility up to 120%, I think that's a check mark. I think we did that. The variety of housing uses, I think that's a check mark. I think it still needs to be worked on. I think the levels, the incentives are not quite there to incentivize someone to build an ADU. I think we still need to work on that. I think there's things that we can do, and I wouldn't discount ADUs or single family homes. There's still something that's needed. It's not going to be the big 150 units at a time, but they still do make a difference. They get people living in the core of the city as well, which is very desirable. The loan stuff I'm not going to talk about because we're just not looking at the loan anymore. Financially vetting the developers, I think it's clear. My suggestion, my recommendation is that we look at the end result as opposed to how we're getting it. If it's not, we don't want to do anything illegal and just kind of turn a blind eye to something disgusting, but I don't think we're doing anything like that. If the developers are on the up and up and they're doing everything on the up and up and they are able to get the dedications and they're able to apply the AMI that we're looking for, and it all is panning out, I think everybody should be looked at the same way. And if you're doing it, you're doing it regardless of who you are. That's my suggestion. And then ongoing funding sources is going to be critical. I don't think we want to create a policy, or my recommendation is don't create a policy for the next 20 years. Do it for the next 4 to 5 years, and look at this in that term for the next 4 to 5 years. In 4 to 5 years, look at it again. See if or sooner. See if there's something different and there's something that you want to change about it. Maybe things have changed completely and this policy is just no longer relevant. So I just look at it for that term. And that's another reason why I think the loans are just not feasible. We might as well just give all that money away if we're loaning people something for the next 15 years. It's just too long. Again, my opinion. So my recommendation is that you approve the policy with the changes, and that you saw the matrix. If you agree with the numbers on the matrix, I would insert that into the policy and write a short narrative for that, and just adopt that matrix as an addendum with those percentages and all those types of things.
I wonder if we want to review it sooner than 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking like in 2 years when we're all still here,
Sure, yeah.
you know, because, I mean, like we said before, we're going to be gone in 4 or 5 years. Some of us will be, and we'll forget to look at this. But as long as we're all still here, we'll have the opportunity to look at it in 2 years. And if that's something that you guys agree with, we probably should include it in the ordinance.
The sooner the better, I think. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Questions?
I guess my question would be, is there a way to monitor this? You know, like if they decide that they want to redo things and ask for a variance on the AMI, or something like that, then at that time, would they come back to the city council and say, or how is like AMI going to be patrolled, or, and stuff?
It's a really, really good question, because it's going to be very difficult for us to do that, especially if we have a bunch of them spread out all over the place. I think this is a good opportunity to work with our partners who are trying to develop the framework to do this exact thing, and to help monitor that for us. Our partners being the Moab Area Housing Task Force, and HASU and MACL, and all the different nonprofits that are working together to try and track these already and monitor these, and can help do that. And might be a good opportunity and more resourceful to have them do it. Resourceful being that it might be less expensive to have them do it than to, say, hire somebody whose full-time job is to do something like this. The bigger units, it's not as hard, to be honest with you, because they can just, it's really AEH is the one that's a little bit harder to monitor. Let me go back just a second. The deed, as far as a deed goes, I mean, that's a document that's recorded against your property. It doesn't go away unless both parties agree that there should be a change, and something is recorded to nullify it, change it, or whatever. So yes, if somebody wanted to come in and make a modification, they would have to appeal to the city council. I haven't written any appeal into this thing. I think it's $1,000. I just wouldn't. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
What's $1,000?
It's just $1,000. If
Appeal process.
Right.
yeah, no, just what I mean is that if it's $1,000 for us,
Chasing $1,000.
yeah.
However, though, if we give $1,000 to an ADU, that goes in, they do it for 2 years, and that rent was, X amount, and then a year later they somehow forget that they agreed to this, and they bump up the rent to market rates or higher. Do we have any sort of is there any sort of violation fee or anything like that? If
There isn't right now. And I said what I said completely wrong. I wasn't saying let's not chase $1,000. What I mean is, I don't think anyone was doing this for $1,000 to begin with. So I don't think they're going to come and try to get their $1,000 back. And I also think there will be other requirements that keep them from changing that deed that have nothing to do with the city, like LIHTC, tax credits, things like that. So on from that, though, if you violate a deed, I guess technically you could take someone to court and you could pursue it that way. We could work something into our code, which you're bringing up a lot of stuff that hasn't been considered yet, which is great, but we could work something in our code that that would have penalties, just like we did with the water thing, with fees for something like that. I don't think we'd be looking at that necessarily until we get to the smaller developments, and like I said, the bigger developments, they have much bigger fish watching what they're doing than the city of Moab.
Don't cut yourself short. Yeah, no, okay, that's fine. And then also, I think I read in here that that the applications would still go through the city council to be approved.
Yeah, I think because you're giving somebody money, I think they should.
No, it's, yeah, I wanted to make sure on that. And then I appreciate this plan. I think this plan does a lot of stuff, and it is pretty inclusive. So that's what I think we want it to do, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mike?
The only thing that I would add is, you know, the two things that I'd like us to work on, and again, I would agree with Jason. I think this plan is a great initial stab at this. I would like to see us working, because I mean, just that this plan, I don't know if it's fair to say it disproportionately benefits larger developments, but just through economy of scale, it absolutely, you know, there is that. You know, we're not doing an effective job of incentivizing with this plan ADUs and single homes. I would like to see us work to evolve that, you know, to come up with other ways to incentivize. And I know you have some great ideas. And then also you know, and it's been said, I'm not a fan of the city becoming a lending institution. But I would like to see us being very active and aggressive at building that housing fund, so that we can, you know, have more monies to throw at this plan.
Right.
Yep. And those are all future discussions.
Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I ultimately agree that I think this is primarily going to be used by larger projects. I'd almost like to see as little like restrictions on ADUs as possible, just because like I think the more that we can do to incentivize increased density, like in already established communities, like the better. We're gonna need to house like people. And I think having kind of like those small incentives really aren't going to work as incentives. I really like the idea of having like the pre-approved like plans, kind of cutting costs in terms of development or like building, are a good idea. And yeah, I very strongly encourage kind of trying to build up this funding, but I'd also encourage seeing what alternatives there are. Maybe not necessarily like the city becoming a lending institution, but potentially having some sort of partnership with like a local credit union where they can like monitor and like monitor and kind of like oversee loans or whatever. I think this is a good way of trying to incentivize bringing affordable housing into the community, but I think there is like a slight distinction between helping make housing affordable for locals. Where like if we can bump like a couple of like percentage points off of like interest like through our fund, like that might make somebody's mortgage payments actually like manageable. Like I don't know, I'm just like thinking outside the box here, but I think there are ways that we can help bring things like into the community, but we can also help like within the community. And that's going to be a lot of kind of like exploration and like brainstorming. But right now, I think the way that this is designed is meeting the initial intent of the fund itself. And yeah, I think this is kind of the most efficient use of taxpayer, or not, I guess not taxpayer funds, but these funds that we have, like in terms of on a per unit basis, we're not going to do better than something like this
right now anyways.
Yeah.
Connie?
No, I think that this plan does a lot to get us headed down the right path. I agree with Colin. I'm not really interested in the city becoming a lender. I think that's just, I just don't think we have the bandwidth in our small city to do that. But, I'd like us to, review it in a couple of years and see where we can improve it. And, like Luke said, just try and make housing a little more manageable for our local residents.
Okay, well, I'll ask for a motion. The motion, I believe, should include, accepting all the red line suggestions that you got in your packet and also adding, that the plan will be reviewed in 2 years or within a 2-year period. So we can reevaluate and also see where we're going with potential more funding. And I don't know if this needs to be in the motion, but I also feel like it's important for us to not drop the ADU and the single family piece about this. So I don't know if we direct staff to continue to work on that piece as part of the motion so that we can, keep that ball rolling. Cause I'm afraid that, we'll prove this and like everything else, more things will happen, but I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, I think
that's an important aspect of this is, we're gonna have a lot of apartments, affordable apartments online. And I think where the challenge is gonna be is those people that don't wanna live in an apartment and want housing or want an live in an ADU. So I think those are kind of the next step in housing affordability in Moab.
I think if I remember we had discussed a little bit, particularly if all of these are going to come from the same fund, is using this the survey results from the housing task force about the needs for different types of units to kind of help guide the allocation of the funds, so that if we feel like we've really kind of met the need for apartment rentals and everything like that, we shouldn't continue to incentivize that. We should be able to redistribute kind of our priority more to focus on helping incentivize ADUs and single family units. So I think just kind of allowing that flexibility within prioritization of the funds.
I have one other change I forgot that wasn't in the packet. It needs to be added. It's important. Definition change. Is that okay if I bring it up right now? It would be a change to number 4 of the definitions designated to make that inclusive of all designations or deeds for periods between 10 and 50 or more years. Right now, in the one that I sent to you, just says 50 years, so you only qualify if you do 50 years, and this changes that to be consistent with the code.
Can I ask, so we have a developer, or we have that's approached us about kind of about this, stuff like this, is housing fund and accessing it. If this were to get approved, does it then need to go back to them to
They would then qualify.
They could then qualify, and then they would come and present to us again at the next meeting under these.
Yeah, or present to him.
Yeah, they would apply through me. I'd make a recommendation to you, and then it would come back. They would automatically qualify since they haven't applied. They haven't gone through yet and haven't paid their impact fees yet, and if they meet the criteria in the policy. So there's no retroactive anything.
And just to clarify, is this a waiver or a rebate?
It's really a rebate because a waiver to me sounds inclusive of the whole thing, waiving the entire thing. So in the policy, I said I use waiver and reduction together. So it says waiver / reduction, or waiver or reduction.
Yeah.
Everywhere in the policy.
I guess thinking about it, particularly if we move more towards focusing on ADUs and single family homes, there's going to be a lot more kind of individual projects to try to keep track of. At which point, what if a project just dies and we have waived fees or whatever?
Yeah, there will be, we'll have a legal, so part of this whole process will be a contract. They have to sign a contract with us, and that's where we'll be able to put a lot of these things, like if you stop doing it, these will be the penalties, if, all those ifs or if thens and things like that. So we will have a contract with everybody that states what the requirements are in order to receive the rebate. And I think what you said earlier about the single family and ADU, I think we should talk about strategic planning, because there is a lot more to do on that.
So basically the motion would be as stated, to include accepting all the red line versions and the addition of
Number that I mentioned, stated number 4, as I stated it, of the definitions.
and adding a review within 2 years.
We have an ordinance number on this?
Yes, it's ordinance 2025-17.
You got it.
All right, I'll move to the Moab City approve ordinance 2025-17, the Affordable Housing Partnership Policy and Impact Fee Assistance Program as presented, with the red line changes, as well as reviewing in 2 years. The policy
Within 2 years.
Within 2 years, reviewing the policy within 2 years, as well as changes made to line 4 as
Of the definition.
of the definition, as the city manager Michael Black mentioned, stated.
And do we want to direct staff to continue to work on ADU and single family options, or we're just going to talk about that
I feel like I'm responsible.
Yeah.
But yes,
And direct staff to continue working
don't
on
know.
ADU options to present to council at a further date. Future date.
ADU and single family homes.
And single family homes.
All right, all right.
Second.
All right, motion by Jason, second by Colin. Any further discussion?
I guess I really do want to make sure that like the whole using the distribution or of the funds towards like the unit types that we're trying to incentivize is kind of codified in there, where because like right now we would have like $250,000 and that's available to like anybody. Whereas like, let's say we feel like we've built enough like affordable rentals, and we have like $500,000 in there. Do we maybe want to leave 100,000 in there and spend the other 400 to incentivize single family homes and ADUs, because like that's what's needed. Like that's the missing product.
I wonder, Luke, if we want to, because right now we have very limited. I mean, there's 2 projects.
Yeah.
And the money's that's going to be it. And so I wonder if we get more money at that time is when we look at what you're talking about, and then review the ordinance at that time, because then we'll have more, because right now we only have enough money for a couple of big projects.
And I put like a trigger in that, like when the Moab Area Housing Task Force like submits its kind of assessment of housing needs in the community, that has helped used to guide the distribution of like those funds if they're remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's more tied to the funds, not technically the policy. So you could tie that to the funds, and you can structure the funds however you want and direct those however the council wants to. But you put the trigger in, and then I think when the council approves the funding, you can make that part of that. Does that make sense? No. So this policy doesn't work without the funding.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can attach to the funding a caveat that if it's $250,000 in the future, the next round, you say, but 150,000 of it will go towards single family and ADU, and only 100,000 will go towards multifamily because of the offset. I'm just making stuff up.
Yeah.
And that's how you could without changing the policy, you can still govern that with the funding.
I think my thing is just like a lot happens in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And just like having like that written reminder, and like at that point council can also just make a decision to like amend the policy to disregard that if they don't feel like it's a useful thing, depending on like the data that they get. But I think it's an important thing to at least be a part of the conversation, because ultimately we are dealing with what are limited resources. And so like we want to make sure that we are incentivizing like the things that our community actually needs. Cause like I've had some heartburn about like, are we going to flood the market with like 1-bedroom rentals? Like, sure, that provides a lot of housing units for our community, and like based on like certain numbers, like that we might match like number of units on the market versus needs, but are we actually matching up the needed types of units versus like the needs?
So do you want to amend the motion?
Yeah, just to add that.
And say exactly what you want to add so Summer can get it.
So I would like to, everything that Jason said, with the addition of adding a trigger upon receipt of like survey results from the Moab Area Housing Task Force that identify the types of units needed in the community, to.
Let me just ask, is that, you guys are working on a report on what the needs are right now, aren't you?
Me?
I'm looking at both of
Ori.
you too. I'm looking at both
They're,
of you
they're
guys.
doing a dashboard.
Yes.
Yes, and so won't that identify what the need, isn't that the intent to identify the need?
I think it's just the pipeline.
Yes, it's an option, but that's a lot of research in depth beyond the pipeline, which we
Okay.
are looking into.
Okay.
What-
But I'm just wondering if you don't want to say survey, but. you know.
Yeah, so I guess like data results
Okay, that sounds good.
From the Moab Area Housing Task Force to help dictate the distribution of funds to prioritize identified like needed unit types.
Affordable unit type.
Affordable unit types. Yeah.
Okay, did you get that, Summer?
Yeah.
Do we want it to be the planning office too, or just the housing task force?
I don't think it matters who it comes from. If it's, I think it's the,
You guys will be working together, right? Yeah,
But
okay.
Luke, how will, I'm not sure, how will that mechanism function? Like in the, like, so a project comes to us. You know,
it
we
wouldn't be
don't-
by project.
yeah.
It wouldn't be, it would be when we get more money, you know, yeah, when we get more money, then we have to determine how it's gonna be spent. And what Luke is suggesting is the task force would give us that data so that we can evaluate where we
But
want
so we
to.
adjust the matrix to,
No,
No,
I think what you don't want to do is you don't want to continue giving money for something that
we don't.
that you don't need as much
Right.
anymore. Give the money to the things that you need. So I think it makes a lot of sense to periodically just take a look at it and see if you need to. Right now, it's not restricted.
Yeah.
But see if at some point you need to say, okay, that's enough multifamily. Let's focus on these ones for a while. So either we're only going to approve this much, like 25 more units for multifamily, or zero, and
Yeah.
we're putting more towards single family and ADU.
And I think the housing task force would trigger us, you know, before we would initiate the trigger, is my guess.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not gonna know.
Yeah, I think like we need that information to be able to like identify like where we want to try to like allocate the funds. But I think like at that point, it opens up a lot of other options that we might not be
Thought of,
thinking of, like
right.
by including like these large scale projects where if we now have $500,000, like we might be able to offer like $10,000-$20,000 per single family home.
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah. That's the kind of incentive that I think we're going to need to look at anyways, because like I was saying, $1,000 for a single family home or an ADU is just not much.
So you are adjusting the matrix.
Yeah,
It's not the,
you could.
to a certain degree, like I think it's,
Well, you're just talking about incentivizing them outside of what the matrix
Yes.
is the standard $1,000 per
Right.
unit. And so you are talking about adjusting the matrix. And so I feel like, you know, and I just want to
Yeah.
understand how the mechanism plays out. And it seems like that's
how it
Yes,
plays
I think it can still function within the context of a matrix. The matrix would just look very, very differently than it does now.
Yeah. Okay, so, and is that an okay thing with the policy?
Yeah, it's fine.
Adjust the.
He's just saying that in like looking at it in 2 years, look at it sooner when we have housing data that says where we should be focusing our efforts.
And ADUs and single families.
Yeah,
And that,
'cause I mean,
right now the matrix is focusing on apartments.
yeah.
And, and so we're gonna be talking about this strategic plan. Michael's gonna be looking at ADUs and single families and what kind of ideas we can have. And what Luke is suggesting is the housing task force, we utilize their as a resource to determine if there are changes in the market and what we need to really be looking at to help guide the single family and ADU policy or matrix portion.
Council, we have a motion, and then we got a second by Colin.
I know.
Luke's language, though, would be considered a substitute motion.
Right.
Okay.
So
I guess if somebody wants to second that, so we can continue the
Yeah,
conversation.
right.
We just figured out what it was, so
Yeah.
we're not- so
But I guess just to my point and I mean, I know we're starting to beat a dead horse here, but if we're gonna reevaluate this in 2 years, doesn't that satisfy this? Like, wouldn't we, in the reevaluation of it, take input from these community?
I agree.
Yeah, and that satisfies
I would think.
the mechanism of this, like, does that
Yeah.
satisfy your, yeah?
So like what I had like kind of mentioned initially was a lot of things can happen in 2 years and like this conversation might be forgotten. And so more so just to like,
I don't think Caitlin's gonna let us forget this.
yeah, but more so just that like by having this in the policy itself, like it forces this conversation about like,
Okay, so I'm gonna follow our attorney's advice. We have a motion with a second made by Jason, seconded by Colin. Luke, it sounds like you're asking to substitute the motion to include getting information from the housing task force to then apply to other options for affordability, housing affordability.
basically.
Is that what you're saying? So that's the
So
subject.
basically, yeah, once we get like the data to use the data to prioritize the proportions in which we direct the funding in terms of incentivizing the types of properties that we want to build.
So you're making a substitute motion?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, everything that you said plus
That. So we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second? Seeing none, we go back to the original motion made by Jason and Colin. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
it's like a quote Morpheus here.
I think Luke.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
in
Okay.
minutes, it's forever in the record now.
Yeah, unfortunately,
practice. honestly.
Luke, you won't be able to be a part of the conversation, but take note of what Luke is.
That was gonna be my ghost coming back to haunt you guys.
Yeah, I know.
No, like I was saying, I think it's just best practice that when I make recommendations to you guys on how to spend your money, that I consider that in the process of doing that. So I'm not advising you to spend money on things that are superfluous.
Yeah.
All right, we're done with general business item 6.9.
Wow. That's not even 9 o'clock yet.
You know, I'm wondering, do I need to do Attorney Elisa, do I need to do a roll call vote on that one?
We're not spending any money.
You're not spending it, you're adopting a policy.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so the last item of general business goes back to the tabled item from the consent agenda, which is an email that I drafted that I felt like it was important to get you guys's support on before I sent it. And it's basically an email thanking the Associate Deputy Secretary of the Department of Interior, Karen Judd Fallon, who was here at the meeting that we had on Monday, December 1st to discuss the National Park Service and their visitor management plan. At that meeting, I was able to attend along with Lena Pace from the Park Service, which was great to have, and there's a lot of Park Service leadership there from the regional office and other parks within the state of Utah. And so the county commission were very kind and invited Lena and I up to sit with them when they made their presentation. I was able to, at that time, express our interest in collaboration with the county and the Park Service on their recommendation to provide an alternative. And that's something, I don't know if you guys are all aware, but Secretarial Order 3434 actually requires the Park Service to work with gateway communities and to collaborate on any kind of impacts that may happen within the parks and that could impact our community as well. And so that's something that's required, and I really appreciate the Department of Interior, the Secretary of Interior coming up with that order, and I hope that the county commission will include us in future discussions on any alternatives to the visitor management plan. And so I also at that meeting reaffirmed the city's support for the timed entry system, and hopefully it can become a permanent management tool sometime soon. We were all hoping that that was going to take place last year, but it didn't. And so, and I also mentioned in this email, and you guys tell me what I can say or not say whatever, that in our sales tax revenue hasn't really shown a decline based on the timed entry system. And then also I recognize the Department of Energy, the Deputy Secretary mentioned how they are trying to phase out rec.gov and replace that with a new app that they're working on right now. I totally supported that idea. And the new app would basically allow people to see what other opportunity they have within a community, a gateway community outside a national park. So if they can't get into the park, if they didn't have a reservation and they're going to go later in the day, these are some other things you can do. And, not only other places you can go hike, but places where you could go shopping downtown or go get a cup of coffee while you're waiting to get into the park. Or, for me, it was more about, we want our people to be downtown and spending their money if they're not able to get into the park when they want to. So this email was basically expressing, gratitude and getting to meet her and talking to her and looking forward to having future discussions, our support for timed entry, and our support for the Department of Interior's new app that I just explained. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but that was the intent of this email. And I felt you guys had to kind of direct me to go ahead and send it or not, or modify it in a way that you feel comfortable with.
I'll start. I'm supportive of this letter. I'm also very supportive of the fact that we are discussing this. I know that Jason was in favor of this, was pushing this, and I think that, I've been blown away by how much publicity that meeting got. And a lot of that publicity is based on what the intent of that meeting was, and whether there was maybe a somewhat a lack of transparency. And so I think that it's really important that this be done in this manner where, we discuss this openly in a meeting before and show our support or not before sending it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions for me on the meeting or my email?
No, I just say hit send.
Well, I could have, but
What's that?
I could have. That's just not how I roll.
Yeah. So I've been torn up over this letter.
Oh, for crying out loud. Now you tell me.
No, and because this is a accumulation of a lot of different things. Can you speak? I'm pretty frustrated. I feel like we're kind of in this no-win situation, with what's going on. I know that there's a lot of people in town who think that we have this down economy, which we do in town right now. It's like sales tax, maybe at a certain level and stuff. However, businesses are down. you know, and I've seen that in my business. I've talked to other business owners who are down, and there's a lot of people who want to blame it 100% upon time entry, and I think that that's unfair, and I don't think that's right. And I think that this is death by 1,000 paper cuts. You know, we have timed entry that does play into it. We have an airline service that is that I feel is unreliable. It's unreliable. People can't rely on to get into town. Service has been cut. You know, numbers have been cut. We've had a drop in marketing funds that have happened, and we have just the economy in general in itself of what's going on that we're seeing throughout the country. However, rec.gov got put in, or timed entry got put in 4 years ago, and before that, as we all know, the Park Service were packed. You couldn't get in. They were closing things, and as a business owner in town, we were canceling trips. We would have Arches tours go to the park and sit in line for 20, 30 minutes. We were not going anywhere. We had to turn around and come back. When timed entry came in, that problem went away. You know, we were able to get into the park. We were able to, you know, our guests, you know, were happy. We were able to provide a service and stuff. And so we can't go back to that. We can't go back to the way it was. It was just, that was unsustainable for the opposite reasons. Now, since we've had timed entry come in, you know, we've had, and I feel like the timed entry hasn't quite done what we want it to do. And I want to support timed entry. However, as we look at what travelers are trying to get in, and I got on the website today, and there's nothing on the Arches page that says when you have to get a timed entry.
Because they don't know.
But still. So then I went to rec.gov, and rec.gov, I went to rec.gov and I put in March 1st. And there's this thing that said, you can't put in March 1st. The earliest you can put in is, or we're only taking reservations till 12/31/25. So that's the rest of this month. So then I put in 12/27/25, and it just pops up at this thing that says date not available.
That's because you don't need a reservation.
But people don't know that. It says entry not available. There's nothing that says you don't need dates during that time.
I thought they changed that though.
This is today. And of when I did this. And so there's nothing on the website that also says, hey, we're not doing timed entry. So if I'm in Europe or someplace like that, or in Wisconsin trying to plan my family vacation, I don't even know when I can get a timed entry. There's nothing that says it. We need the Park Service to work with us more. We need
the Department of Interior.
We need someone to work with us more. We need to stress, and I would hope that we could maybe tweak this letter to stress, you know, that we need your help. We need you guys to pivot. You know, I look, and again, another subject that's really near and dear to my heart and my financial future and the financial future of this community is the North Wash boat ramp that's been there for 22 years, hasn't been fixed, and it is absolutely affecting the economy of this town. And so I have to support this letter because I have to support timed entry. And because we can't go back to the way we have it. But we need to stress, I think, to the Park Service that we need you guys to pivot faster. We need you guys to be assertive with making things work. You know, when I'm looking at reviews and people saying things like, I tried to make I waited in line. They told me to go back to town and make a reservation, and they had 50 spots, I didn't know what time to get. So I bought 10 entries because I didn't know what time I could be there, and stuff. So I bought, 10 slots, and you look at it and like you look at like the 1-star reviews, and then I went and I looked at 3-star reviews, and even the 3-star reviews are saying, I had problems with timed entry, So I think that them saying like, hey, we're working on an app to do this. We need the app right now. These are not new things that have happened in the last 4 years. I want to support timed entry. I have to support timed entry. but we need a better experience, and we need, you know, because it is impacting, our local economy, and it's impacting visitors who are spending a lot of money to come see their national parks and not able to get in. So I'm going to say we support the letter. I'd love to see something in there, a paragraph. that
I
says-
will, how about if I tweak the second paragraph about the timed entry and send it to you guys again before I mail it out? Does that work?
And maybe something
If
like.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
but you know.
And I'm not trying to be advantageous, you know, or
Yeah,
express towards the Park Service, you know, and stuff. I just it's just weighing on me, you know, that you know, and maybe even something in there that says, please continue to look at other options for streamlining the visitor experience.
Yeah.
Um,
Or like potentially like creating some sort of established channel that the city can provide more direct feedback. Like,
yeah,
like it's going to be businesses like you and like the city leaders where like this information is going to get funneled up. And so rather than potentially having like a bunch of people screaming like a bunch of different things, having a point of contact where it just like that, it's saying like that there's nothing available on the 27th, like that should be a pretty quick fix.
absolutely.
But-
And that's why, because we brought that up.
We
last
brought that up with them. You know, we brought up the thing that like, hey, if you're doing this plan, have Wi-Fi access at the booth. You know, have it so that an older couple who's not into technology can go into the visitor center and pay for it. You know, and stuff. And so I'm just again, we need these guys to pivot quicker, because the decisions they're making and then how long it takes them to make a decision or to make an action is it's too long, you know, and so that's I think this letter needs to be written. I think this letter needs to be sent. I just think that we need to kind of demand or ask to be a better partner in.
Okay, I'll definitely tweak that second paragraph. That's okay. We should have talked to me sooner. We've only been talking about this for 2 weeks. No, and I just so everybody knows that came up at the meeting. Somebody from UAC brought up the fact that it takes so long, and I grabbed the microphone and said 100%. Brought up the North Wash boat ramp, brought up timed entry. We've been talking about timed entry since 2015, and it's 10 years later, and we still don't have it right. I mean, it's not that, I mean, we still can make it better, I guess is a better way to say it, and not the negative. And, you know, that is frustrating. I mean, I was, you know, working with the park for a long time as a Friends Group executive director, and that was my biggest frustration, is how long it takes to get anything through. And I think right now, part of the problem is, I mean, just to be fair to the Park Service, is they're kind of like, I don't know what's going on with the Park Service back in Washington. And I think we'll find out when we meet with Tim and Ryan on Thursday. We'll ask. But, you know, I just think that there's been a lot of staffing cuts. I mean, remember when we were back there, we talked with Mike Caldwell. I mean, he lost 22% of his employees in one day. So I think there's a lot of dysfunction back in Washington right now at the Department of Interior with the Park Service. And my guess is that's what Associate Deputy Secretary was out here to learn. And I know that she's planning to meet with all the superintendents of the national parks in Utah and kind of get their perspectives. And I think we'll have more opportunity to talk directly to her as well and to bring up these points. But I mean, if you guys are okay, I will retreat this. Email me your comments and I'll send it out to you tomorrow. You know, it's been over a week. I'd like to send out these emails, you know, sooner than later. And so I'd like to send it out tomorrow.
I also just wanted to be able to
say that.
What, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I think it's,
May I also?
yeah.
Okay.
No, I think like everybody here is and wants to be supportive of timed entry, but it'll be a lot easier to be supportive of it if it's a lot more responsive to a lot of these things. Like,
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I want to reiterate our support for timed entry. I think just also looking at, I know timed entry has been the big thing that's been the conversation. But looking at the plan that the commission put together, I mean, it talks about they want to go away with timed entry and they want to look at other things. And my question is why can't we consider both? Like I support timed
Right.
entry, but I also think there's stuff that Commissioner Martinez put in here about adaptive management, about infrastructure. Like there are so many other ways. Like I'd support timed entry and we do because it's, you know, it's intended, obviously, with those reviews is not like providing a quality visitor experience, which is, I think, the intention. In part is to make sure that as people are going to the parks are preserved, but also people have a better experience. So I think for me too, in these conversations, rather than like fighting it out over timed entry, also focusing on some of these other things of, you know, what would it look like for us to add other parking? You know, even just thinking about going to the cast meeting that I went to over the summer, Estes Park, one of the, you know, Rocky Mountain is one of the biggest. They have timed entry, but with that, they also talked a lot about the other infrastructure improvements that they did to make sure that as people are coming in, even if that's regulated, I guess that's the other thing with timed entry is it's regulated based on the capacity of the park, trying to distribute that. And so if the goal is to find a different level of balance of that, if that's what the county's pushing for, I'm not saying that's necessarily what that is, but or where I stand on that. But I think that timed entry is not the only thing. Like you have to do the other things first in order to increase visitation. So I think having those, I think technology, the app is a big one. I think infrastructure is going to continue to be a big conversation. I think maybe it's worth mentioning as well because of the mat and, you know, potential shuttle service or like other transportation connectivity things to the park. So,
Well, if I could respond.
Sure.
And I'm kind of fading here.
Yep.
Just so you know.
I go, right.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I need.
My coffee too.
Yeah. But a lot of the things that you're bringing up have, you know, like they doubled the amount of parking at the Windows District and Devil's Garden and Sand Dune Arch in the last 6 years. So, you know, a lot of things that the commissioners brought up have already been looked at. And some of them, I mean, really the bottom line comes down to, except for timed entry, because I think adjustments can be made that don't cost any money, is money. And and I brought that up also. It's just like all these ideas are great ideas. The mat, great idea. But we need to come up with $1 million in the next 2 years just to keep it functioning within city limits. And so to have it go outside of the city, you know, where's that money going to come from and who's going to pay for it? Is it Park Service? Is the federal government? The federal government isn't really even paying for the needs the Park Service needs now. And so, you know, these ideas are all really good ones. I like them all. I supported them, but I agree with you completely. It's just like they can be timed entry and some of these other things to spread out visitations, which maybe would allow more people to get in the park during the, you know, with a reservation. I hate to use reservation, but you know, and so you can have more people, you can broaden the amount of people that are coming in with the reservation and spread them out a little more. So, anyway, those things, we did talk about those things. And I do know just also from my past that money is always the issue. And, you know, that's where things get delayed. And then you have a change in administration and their priorities change. You know, and that's what happened with timed entry. That's why it's been 10 years, is like we've had 3 presidents. And every time we get a new president, they have a different idea for what they want to see happen in the parks and public lands in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also like the conflict with the Park Services, like primary priority mission, which is preservation. Like, and adding more people and adding more infrastructure is somewhat in direct conflict with that. And so, like, I think it's balancing like the needs and the wants of the community versus the mission, like, of the Park Service itself.
Yeah, I mean, the parks were never guided to make sure that the gateway communities have a good economy because of them.
Yeah.
You know, and so we rely on the park because that's our jobs as, you know, city council members and mayors, is to make sure that our economy is booming, and we rely on the park to do that, but is not their job.
Yeah, and that's like, I'm bringing that up partly just because like, if we want to have a good working relationship with them, we really need to understand, like both sides need to understand where both sides are coming from. And so we're not just kind of screaming in a corner, shouting like, we want this, and not taking into consideration like a large part of like why they exist.
Right.
With things, well, I'll be quick, with things like the North Wash boat ramp that are just so specific and so impactful to our local economy. Is there any appetite for engaging our lobbyists in this? And
Well, with the boat ramp, with the boat ramp, the state's taken on, they're supposed to be coming out. Did you go to that Outfitters thing, or is that this week?
That's this week.
Oh, okay. You'll have more information on that, but my understanding was the state funded a feasibility study and provided money to upgrade the current boat ramp so that it can be usable for boaters coming off a cat.
Okay.
But there's another bigger one, which God only knows when we'll see that, that's on the other side of the river, that they approved. And again, it all comes down to money, you know, I mean, the state's putting up the money for the North Wash boat ramp. And we'll see how long that lasts.
We met with Secretary Burgum last spring.
Right.
He's like, Secretary, you know.
So, could I just have a motion to approve this email to be sent to the Associate Deputy Secretary of the Department of Interior with some modifications, and that you guys will review it before I hit send?
Yeah, so moved.
Yeah.
Okay. Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did you get it, Summer? Jason and Colin, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we still have a closed session. And that's gonna be long also. So, I know. So we'll start with city manager report, and then we'll move on to, and, you know, we have Luke.
Party here all night.
I don't have any champagne or anything.
That's next week.
Yeah, that's next week. Next week.
So I'll make this really quick. Crosswalks, we are getting our new high visibility crosswalks in. You might have seen them around town. They're looking good. I've walked on them. I think they're great. Someone who walks to work, I use one of those now, and I feel a lot more comfortable, to be honest with you. It's just paint, but it just makes a big difference. So really excited to get those in and continue that. We have new trash cans coming to town. There's 2 of them out front. We just wanted to provide them so you guys could get a good look at them before we put them in. We already bought them all, so hope you love them. So we're going to be wrapping those with information as well. I think they're great. They look pretty classy and trashy at the same time, if you can picture that. But okay, that wasn't that funny. So,
yeah,
that was really funny. You guys were just tired. So, we had a great event this weekend. I know some of you will talk about it, but I just want to say thanks to all the staff. I know these guys were a huge part of that, leading it and bringing up the rear. And then also our public works staff, there's a lot of them involved in it. And there's just a lot of work at the staff level that goes into making that happen as well. And working with the chamber, they did an excellent job as well, and organizing, and all the people who participated, but special thanks to all the staff. The next meetings, just wanted to make sure it's clear, the next meeting's going to be our strategic plan. It'll be January 8th and 9th. And then we only have one business meeting as of right now, we're only having one business meeting in January, and that'll be the 27th. And happy holidays to everybody. Hope everybody has a really safe and happy holiday. If you're traveling, be safe, and see y'all on the flip side, I guess, or in closed session.
Yeah. All right, moving around the table, we'll start with you, Caitlin.
Okay. As we are starting to general things, I wanted to send support and condolences to the city of Green River over the loss of Mayor Wren. Super tragic. I think it's a reminder for us as we're sitting up here how valuable our life is and our mayor is. and how all these conversations about transportation and safety are really important. On the 15th, I went to the Cinema Adventure premieres hosted by the Moab Monument Valley Film Commission, which was really fun. On the 1st, I went to a Utah Renewable Communities meeting. They're still in process at the Public Service Commission. Importantly, the public hearing is coming up on December 16th to receive comments. They are asking in particular comments from participating communities like ours, so I will try and make a comment. And the meeting time, it's at 6 o'clock. You can find it on public notice website. If that passes, it means that program approval will happen in January 26th, which means that we have 90 days to adopt a program ordinance. They'll send us materials to do that. Other things I'll highlight quickly, we did have a task force meeting. I appreciated Michael reading a few of those comments from the group. We had put together a survey. We talked about all of that last week. And so just, yeah, timing. It was great to see some of that incorporated. We also are making slow progress on this housing pipeline analysis. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now. And then approved fees to support the housing dashboard. Went to the tree lighting ceremony, saw the bridge, love the investment in the lights. Did everything Michael said. I will just run through that really quickly because I think we'll all say it, but amazing weekend. Huge kudos to staff and the chamber and county and everything. And then finally, I just wanted to thank Luke. Can't even look at you. I'm up here today in so many ways because I watched you run, and because you supported me when I was running. I didn't expect to get so emotional, but I've known you for a really long time, and since we both moved here, and I'm just really proud of you. I so greatly appreciate everything you've provided as a council member, to the city, to staff, to the community. I can't wait to see what you do next, and get some respite, and continue to just be your friend. But yeah, I think the city's been a better, calmer place, in large part because you've been one of the leaders. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. On the 14th, I had a Trail Mix volunteer appreciation party. We were celebrating about 2,094 volunteer hours, which in Utah, how they qualify those hours, it's about $72,000 in volunteer labor. So pretty big milestone. Had a solid waste meeting on the 19th. It's budget season. Public hearing tomorrow at 5 p.m. On the first day, I went to the City Planning Commission meeting to support the non-motorized trails master plan. And then we heard about that tonight. On the 3rd, I had a mayor council meeting. And then today on the 9th, I had a trail mix meeting. Spring Spruce Up Again is scheduled for April 11th. And Officer Monty Rosenhuber came and talked to us about e-bikes and everything, all the good things that the Moab PD is doing to, address this sort of moving target of an issue. And then I should say too that Luke, you're going to leave a big void on this council. That you definitely your thoughtfulness and just caring nature is just going to be hard to replace in this council.
Connie? Yeah. On the 13th, I went to a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting. The 14th, I went to the UDOT commission meeting, and there have never been as many suits in this room as there were that day. Let's see. And I had a meeting with the mayor, Michael, and Colin on the 3rd. And on the 19th, I was just incredibly educated. I went and spoke to the 2nd and 3rd graders at the charter school about government. They were learning about presidents and voting and rights. And then we had questions. do I have a boss? And I told them I had 5,300 bosses. They asked me if I had done other jobs, and I told them some of the jobs I had done, and they decided I was very old to have had that many jobs. But the best question I got, did I think a baby panda would be a good pet?
Good question.
My thought was no, because it would be really hard to get it away from its mother. And the 8-year-olds educated me. If you take a baby panda away from its mother while its eyes are still shut, and then it opens its eyes, it will think that you're its parent, and it would be a great pet. So, Luke, that's what you get to look forward to. And I too want to thank you for your calm nature and for your common sense and just your good nature. And you will be missed, but you'll be around.
Yeah.
And I too want to send condolences to the Hat family. I didn't ever know Ren. I think I may have met him at a meeting or two, but Norm spent a lot of time hunting on his grandparents' ranch. And it even struck Norm kind of hard. So just be grateful for what we have.
Thanks, Tony. Luke, I'm gonna let you go last.
All right. So, I didn't have a lot of meetings, but I attended the turkey trot, and, it was great. James tried to trip me. I know it.
James.
Great turnout, a lot of runners. I think Patrick said it was the biggest turnout they've ever had. It was great weather. Moab City staff did an absolutely amazing job putting it on, and from, you know, everybody, it was a lot of fun. It was a super cool event. So, and then the winter festivities started, you know, from the bridge lighting, which turned out really well. Like everybody said, the bridge turned out great. I'm glad that collaboration with the city and the county worked out and stuff. And then City Swanee Park looks absolutely incredible, you know, and Main Street looks super good. Thank you, Moab City staff, for all that. It's funny, I was like at the bridge talking to Mark, and we were just talking about like, what can we do next year? What can we do that we didn't, you know, and it was amazing. It was super cool to like just talk to everybody and how excited they were about a bridge. And in fact, I was walking to the bridge lighting, and these people, this family was walking past me, and it was dark, you know, and but they were like, this husband and wife or a couple were talking, and she's like, this is amazing. This is so cool what Moab City has done with the town this year. And it is just absolutely incredible. And I was like, nice, that's awesome, you know. And then the whole week was just awesome. I don't know if you guys have seen the tree up in Sandflats. It's super cool. You know, downtown looks great. The light parade was massive. You know, I couldn't believe how big it was. And the chamber deserves kudos because they knocked it out of the park with all the stuff. And so great way to bring in the holiday season and stuff. Today I had a travel council meeting, which the travel council approved the criteria for giving out grants to events coming. And I think that they're going to start, you know, hopefully we'll start seeing some bunch of events coming in that can apply for grants to help with advertising and bringing, you know, some groups to Moab. And that's all I have. And I just got to say the same thing that, you know, Luke, is I've absolutely 100% enjoyed, you know, working with you the last 4 years. You know, I'm going to miss our texts. We text a lot, you know, it seems like, and I hope that doesn't end, you know, and I hope that, you know, our friendship continues. You know, I love getting to know you and your family, and even my wife the other day was like, Luke, what do you do without Luke? and which I was like, wow, I didn't even think you paid attention to who I work with or who I associate with. She's like, no, like like you and Luke are good, you know, are awesome and stuff. And you went through this whole process together. So you're going to be missed. And I appreciate everything. I wish you the best of luck with your new family. I get how hard it is. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get cheaper. But you're going to be awesome at it. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, I attended the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District with Tawny. And we have another one coming up this Thursday. Transportation Commission, Tawny was also there. I had an opportunity to talk to Bruce Adams, who's on the Transportation Commission. He's also on the CIB board, and mentioned to him that the city will be coming to CIB for a request for the water tank. And I've got a pretty positive response from him about the potential of funding from CIB for that project. The 19th through the 22nd, Michael and Alexi and I were up in Salt Lake for the National League of Cities, and I will have to say, they really, really need a sidewalk czar in Salt Lake City. When we were walking around, we talked about you every time we went walking downtown and went.
Every time we tripped.
Yeah, it's like Jason needs to get up here. Anyway, just so every city has issues with their sidewalks, and we're doing a great job right now getting them repaired. And I heard that from Melanie McCandless today. She goes, I see him, I'm out all the time. So I'm glad that we're working on our sidewalks, and need to talk to Mayor Mendenhall to get on theirs. I did serve on a panel with her and also with the mayor from Thousand Oaks, California, and Portland City Councilwoman. And that was a great discussion about heating hot cities and extreme weather events. And luckily Alexi was there to help me know what to talk about. Keynote speaker Tim Schreiber. Tawny, you and I heard him speak. He's great. He's at the University of Utah right now as an adjunct professor, and he gave us a overview again of the Dignity Index. Governor Cox and Governor Lujan Grissom were there from New Mexico. That they were very entertaining and pretty funny. So that was, to me, was the best part of the whole conference, was the keynote speakers. Was able to welcome everybody to the lighting of the Christmas tree at Swanee along with Santa Claus. That's always fun. I can't believe the line of kids that line up to sit on Santa's lap. It's amazing. And they're like all into it. They believe in Santa. Arthur's going to be there next.
We all believe in Santa. Right?
Yeah. Hey.
Hey.
But yeah. Did I say anything that was I close? Didn't mean to. You said they.
You meant they all believe it's.
That's an inclusive term. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm looking forward to Santa coming to my house. Better come to my house.
Don't believe you don't receive.
Yeah, right.
And have you been that good?
No, I haven't. Maybe you won't come
Okay,
to
go
my
on.
house. Anyway, the last thing I did this week was I met with the folks from 4 Camp, from the Moab Office of Tourism, Camp 4, to talk about what our, what the city's promotional ideas are. And, basically it's like promote downtown. That's what we want you to do.
Great.
Outdoors is great, but downtown is even better. So that was really good. And Luke, the three of us, we all came in this together. It's been a great ride. I'm glad that Jason and I get to continue on. I wish you were here with us. And I just want to say that this Dignity Index thing, there's like 8 functions, and I'm not going to read them all, but the number one, which is what none of us want to be, is that, when you have a disagreement with somebody, or you just don't agree, we see that all the time. We see this divisiveness. The worst thing you could say is that they're not even human. It's our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. We've heard that a lot. The number 8 one, which is what we all want to strive for, is each one of us is born without inherent worth, so we treat everyone dignity no matter what. And that's you, Luke. You've always looked out for everybody, and you've always been the person that wants to be inclusive and to make sure that we don't treat people differently, that we treat everybody equally and with fairness and with kindness. And I just, that's a trait. I don't know that I ever get to an 8. I always strive to get that, but you're always at an 8. And so, well, maybe not always. Now that you're a dad, we'll see how long that goes. But I really feel that with all my heart that you've been somebody that's just been so kind and set such a great example of how we should treat our fellow citizens in our town, and really appreciate that. And like Caitlin, look forward to seeing, what future holds for you and Kaya and Arthur. And so hopefully you'll come and see us sometime. We'll really miss you.
Thank you.
So now it's your turn.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for your kind words. I know like when I first got elected and I first got sworn in, it was a really surreal experience. And this being my last meeting is a surreal experience in and of itself. I feel like I was comfortable. It was yeah, I'm a city council member for maybe 2 months over these past 4 years. But I wrote kind of an outline down. I know that I have a tendency to let my words wander and sometimes just kind of end up in nowhere. So I need some structure. But I really want to thank the residents for the opportunity and for trusting me with the seat. It's been an honor, and in so many ways, it's been a humbling experience. I know I haven't gotten everything right, but I've learned so much more than I expected about how much work it takes to keep a small city running. And I hope it's been clear that I try to do my homework, be honest about my reasoning, and act in good faith and with integrity. To the staff and all the departments in the city, you're often only visible to the public when something goes wrong. You carry out the decisions that we make up here, and you do it under a lot of scrutiny. I've watched how easy it is for the staff to get otherized in community conversations, treated like some faceless bureaucracy instead of the neighbors who live here, have families here, and care deeply about this place. I've seen the late nights, the long emails, the site visits, the stress that comes from caring about this community, not from indifference. Thank you for the work that you do that most people never see. Thank you for your patience in explaining complex things to us council members who are just trying to get caught up to speed, and to the public over and over again. To the community, I know that these last few years have been emotionally challenging. There's been a lot of disagreement, whether it be at public hearings, on social media, letters to the editor. But for me, the moments I valued most weren't when everyone agreed with me. They were when people came with questions instead of accusations. When someone changed their mind because they saw new information. That was me on numerous occasions. Just the willingness to have honest, open dialogue for the betterment of our community. I really appreciated when we disagreed, but we still recognized each other as neighbors first. We're still going to have these hard conversations moving forward, whether it's growth, housing, taxes, and tourism. But my hope is that we keep showing up with that continued curiosity, and not certainty, and with listening and not labeling. We all are going to see each other at the grocery store, at school events. It's going to be a new thing for me. Out on the trails. And I think it's important how we talk about one another. I understand that a lot of this comes from an impassioned love of this community, but I think that passion is a valuable fuel to drive action, but it's something that shouldn't be 100% steering our conversations. I really want to thank my colleagues, the council members and mayors, the city managers that I've served with. Thank you for your time, your thoughtfulness, your willingness to wrestle with hard decisions. I've appreciated the times that we've pushed each other's, asked tough questions, disagreed, but still managed to work together and really work as a unit, as a council. I've really appreciated I don't know, I was talking to somebody recently that it takes a certain amount of ego to want to run for council, but everybody here has the ability to pull that ego back when it comes to acting on behalf of the city. And I think that's a really important thing, because it allows us to not let our own emotions drive our actions. It allows our desire to better this community to be the predominant and prevailing force that kind of guides us through these conversations and decisions. and because I've gotten to experience that, I'm so confident about the direction that the city's headed in. Like, it is in good hands at like a leadership level, at a staff level. We have some really smart, dedicated people who know this community and want it to succeed. We all care deeply about like everybody in this, even the people that we frequently disagree with. And I'm also optimistic about my replacement. I know Miles pretty well, and I'm really excited about him stepping into this role. I think fresh eyes and new energy are always a good thing for any governing body. I think that's especially important right now when I have very tired eyes and very little energy because of this entrance into fatherhood. And with that, like, although I'm sad to be stepping away from this role, I am personally excited and recognizing that this is the right moment for me to step away. I had a rough introduction into parenthood, but it has been an amazing experience so far. And as Joette had alluded to, I also had like the loss of my father this year. And so like more than ever, I've recognized how important family is. And like, I'm very excited to be able to spend time and devote more time and energy to my family. But in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm saying goodbye to a family that I really built over these 4 years. And it's not a real goodbye. I mean, we're all neighbors. I'm involved in this community one way or another. I might not sit behind this dais, but I'm pretty sure you're going to see me sitting behind that desk, talking to you, maybe impassionedly or not. But at the end of the day, I just want to thank everybody for giving me the chance to serve. I'm really grateful for this community, even when we drive each other a little crazy. And I'm confident that this city's going to keep building itself in a direction that's worthy of the people who live here. And at the end of the day, it's been an honor, and I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. I kind of sit here and like, although it happened 4 years later, like, this really was a thing that I never would have envisioned I would have had the opportunity to do to like make my father proud. And it's something that like I hold on to like in his absence. So yeah, just thank you all. It's been a really special experience that I will never ever forget. And hopefully like at a future time in my life, maybe I'll be able to kind of re-experience. But it'll never be the same because it'll never be this group of people again. So that's something that I will cherish. Like throughout the 4 years that I've been on this council, have like constantly sung the praise of the people that I've been surrounded with, like throughout like the ranks of City Hall, and have like counted my blessings that I got elected the year that I did, and not 2 or 4 years prior to that. It would have been a much different experience. And so, yeah, this, along with so many things like throughout this, have just been a really great exercise in gratitude. And I know when I was canvassing, there's somebody that I spoke to that I said that I hope that when I leave, like my term as a city council member, that I've pissed off everybody in this community at least once. And I feel like with a lot of decisions that I've made, like I've accomplished that, and I feel good about that because I feel that means that I've really tried to do my best to represent this entire community and not just people that I generally associate with. And yeah, at the end of the day, like there's always more work to be done. There's always more that I wish I could have done, but I am proud of the things that we've been able to accomplish during my time here on council. And I really look forward to seeing you all continue carrying this momentum forward. I think there's like just like such an excellent group of people here, and the city is in good hands. I know a lot of people aren't going to believe me about that, but at the end of the day, in terms of like that, my opinion is the only one that matters for me. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right, we're not done.
Yeah.
So.
Motion to go in closed session.
You need a motion to go into closed session to discuss reasonable or imminent or pending litigation, reasonably imminent or pending litigation.
I'll make
We're-
a motion to
we're
go
gonna
in.
have
Yeah,
something
it was,
security.
security services,
Lisa, what's the,
The primary purpose is to discuss the deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems.
okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the deployment of
Security personnel
security personnel or devices
or systems.
or systems.
There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Motion by Tawny, second by Luke. Oops.
Oh,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to into close. If anybody needs a 5-minute break.
I already got a